What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Pass the Barb. I'm Ryan Pinkalla, and today is Monday, July 22nd. Coming to you fresh with a few more boys this time. Our boy Will Stolsky, though, not with us. He is freshly landed in Alaska this week, so I don't know how often we're going to be hearing from him, but he's going to be sending us some updates. So last week, it was just me and Stolsky grinding it out. But tonight, it's we got a little more of a full house here. So coming to you is Barty boy, fresh off the tournament trail. What's up, bud?
Yeah, I am back in town. I am so excited to be back on the #1 outdoor podcast in the world. It was really nice the past 2 months to be a listener to the #1 outdoor podcast in the world. So I was listening. I heard about everything going on. I heard about everyone chirping me. I know I fell into last place in fantasy fishing. I'm aware of all these things that have happened, but I have been, I've been on the road a bunch lately. A lot of various things have happened in life and just, in general. So, it's good to be back. Hyped to be, I literally, before I hopped on, I went and I grabbed a beer. I was like, all right, I get to chat with the boys. It's been a while. I haven't even talked to you guys in like a month and a half. It's been crazy.
I know. We're definitely going to get into it here.
Yeah, we're going to get into it. And I think that's one of the coolest things about this podcast too, is like, whether it be Honor, Stolsky, Pink, Bart, we're all really close buddies, but especially because summer is so busy and just time passes so fast, we don't get a chance to catch up, and we literally get a chance to catch up here on the pod. So, yeah, it's going to be awesome. And by the way, kudos to you, Ryan, and Will Stolsky for an awesome pod last time. It was just you two boys. You held it down, but I listened to it on like the car ride to Brainerd the other day, and it was like chill.
Dude, it was
funny.
super chill, man.
You guys got me. You guys got me through. So you know that toll road west of Chicago, when you're driving home, Sobi. You know what I mean, from the northeast or whatever.
I think Sobi might have.
Oh, you are froze right now, but okay. Oh, you're back.
It's just his face.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, that toll road from Chicago heading west, and then you drive north and hit Madison. And then you take 94 all the way back. Basically, that intersection to Wisconsin Dells. You got me through that stretch at like 4 a.m. when I was driving home from St. Clair. So the fan questions were fantastic too, actually.
Yeah,
they were really
I will
good.
say
It was
PTB
really good.
Nation dug deep last time and greatly appreciated. Yeah. No, it was good, dude. It was good. It was a chill one. And it's all good. All good. And I was pumped to at least be able to chat with Stolsky before he's gone for like a couple months. So that was good.
Yeah, I'm excited, dude. When he goes up to Alaska and then comes back, it's like some of the best stories and just fishing talk and everything.
I know.
Back.
He sent like one, I don't know if it was a Snapchat or a story or whatever yesterday of them flying in and landing on the river up there. And I was like, God damn,
that's so
that
sweet.
looks sick.
So he officially got there yesterday then?
Yeah. So for the listeners that maybe missed last week or whatever, Stolsky is guiding salmon trips on the Nushagak River in Alaska for like, is it 2 months or at least the next month and a half or so? So he'll be, I think, MIA for a bit. But we'll get some updates from him, how it's going. Everything that I've heard so far is that like the salmon numbers are really, really good this year. So I'm sure they're going to absolutely smash.
Yeah. But yeah, it should be good. But yeah, so how about you? What are you doing here?
Things have been good. Kind of like you, Adam, been on kind of the tournament grind, bouncing here and there. Just wrapped up a Champions Tour event on Gull Lake. That's the every fish type format. And Gull Lake is amazing, by the way. That was like my first legit bass derb I've ever kind of competed in out there. I fished Gull Lake a lot in the winter and then for a couple photo shoots in the summer, but that lake it's really freaking good. Other than that, yeah.
So Sobi, I was just curious right here because I was like, holy shit, I know I've been gone from the podcast for a long time, but like, how long has it actually been? And I went back. The last podcast I was on was Memorial Day.
Oh, wow. Really?
And do you know, so it's because for people that don't know, we record on Mondays. And the alternating schedule of Mondays. So 2 weeks ago when we recorded, I was at the Bassmaster Open. The 2 weeks before that, you and I were at the Champions Tour on Gull. The 2 weeks before that, we were at, or no, maybe not Gull. it was Mille Lacs, and then the 2 weeks before that, I was at Okoboji.
Yeah. It's been
And
freaking
like
busy.
it just perfectly, the Champions Tour schedule perfectly lined up with PTB Mondays, and the Open did too. And I was like, oh my God. So I missed everything. So what did you think of like the start of your season and everything so far? Because I've barely gotten to talk to you about it.
It's been good. Like people are smashing them. I think at Gull Lake, it took over 100 pounds just to get 5th place.
6. There were 6 bags over 100 pounds.
Which, if anybody's not used to that format, I know that's like kind of weird. Usually it doesn't even barely take 100 pounds for the winner. I think last time we were at Gull, it took 72 pounds or something, but it's really cool. Like the Champions Tour has a real live well app, and they keep track of like all this data. And I think there was like 1,900 bass weighed in for 65 or 70 dudes. So
That's
like
so many bass.
2,000 bass got successfully hooked and without a net landed and weighed in. Like how many bass were
and that doesn't
hooked?
even count the unscorables.
Yeah.
The ones under a pound. And there are a lot of 14 ouncers that got caught.
So Gull Lake straight has them, and those guys smash them. Like they smash them.
Like Pink, think of how good this bite was. So Sobi said 72 pounds won last time we were there 2 years ago in August when Noah won.
Yep.
Last check is 19th place, and it was like 70 pounds.
Good God.
That's crazy.
Which is what like won last time.
And
there
I
was
guess
20 people that caught more bass and fish. That's so
than the winner last time. Yeah.
Than the winner.
So what with that like format or whatever? Because this one is it a full day? I guess I don't even know how it's set.
So they do.
Is it a full day or is it split?
Yeah. So they split into 2 4-hour periods. So they'll send you out in the morning. They normally launch everybody at about 6:45 or so. And you can't make your first cast until 7.
Right.
And then you have to be back to the dock for halftime at 11.
Okay. That's what I thought it was like.
And then they send you back out and you can start fishing right away, but you fish until 3:30 and then you have to be to the dock by 3:45. So at Gull, that actually matters because if you're in the North Lakes, like in, Upper Gull, Roy, Nisswa, Bass, Spider, whatever. Depending where you are, it's like a 45-minute commute. So you're done fishing at 3 while other people are still stacking up weights. So it's kind of this whole strategy game compared to 5 fish.
And they cut the lake in half, or sometimes they make a neutral zone, but basically they split the lake the night before at the pre-tournament meeting. So like, the craziest deal about this is you kind of have to like be semi dialed in at a large
whole body of water
on the whole body of water. Because you don't want to get screwed over and be like, oh, they cut it here. I got to fish here for 4 hours. And I've never even seen that. You need to like see everything, and not only see it, like have to be able to get on fish, catch fish, and never stop. Like the moment the period starts to all the way it ends. Like if you have lull times, you just watch yourself fall down.
Yeah.
They catch them so fast, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I think it's making me a lot better though at just breaking down water and trying to fish more efficient. So that's probably the thing I like about it the most. I think it's making me a better angler, and
it'll be interesting to talk with Stefan about that later when we have our guest who fishes the BPT. So he does do that as well. So talking about that format since Sobi's doing it locally, but what Leitner told me, Sobi, and even filming it, I feel like I've become a better angler watching it, is you really learn time management.
Yeah.
And you learn how much time you waste on spots in a 5-fish derby, even when you're like, oh, I'm waiting out a big one. Like, you get way better at noticing, like, I'm just going to go because this doesn't make, I could come back, but like, I'm going to get out of here now. I'm not going to wait. I could go to that dock over there and catch 2 fish and then come back.
Yeah. And those guys that are really good at it, like anyone from your Noah Schultz to, your Hunter Wendt, or any of those guys that are always consistently in like the top 15, they're just efficient. These dudes are straight efficient and they're assassins. So it's like, Yeah, they know how to take their best game plan and throw it out the window in a second and not even care about it. And I think that's like the toughest pill to swallow when it doesn't go down for you right away. When you're like, dude, I literally had shook off 20 bites here in 20 minutes yesterday, and now I can't catch a fish here. And there's like part of you that's like, damn it, I don't want to leave this. Then the other part of you is like, dude, go,
Yeah, bail.
screaming, bail.
But it is, I do like, I think mentally I would enjoy that format more of like the live leaderboard and the whole thing. Cause I think it forces you to make those decisions. You know what I mean?
It forces you to make instinctual decisions and not just
because you
go
start
to
feeling that pressure, like, holy shit, like, I got to do something.
Big time.
Well, and Sobi at go.
I think there's like,
you were
at
halftime, Sobi, you were in like 59th.
Yeah, dude.
Like
bad.
you were bad.
I was
you
doing
were like
bad.
you were at bomb level.
I know. And I was like freaking pissed, dude. I was so mad. And and then but you can't quit because like, you can lay over and take a bomb, but then you literally have to go, I'm not only needing to crush them, but I need to fight my ass off to at least make up for good points. Cause like at the end of the year, you fish for a boat.
And that's so much harder an event that's a slugfest.
Yeah.
Because you had to make up ground and everybody was catching the shit out of them and you weren't.
I know. And then in the second half, I'm like crawling up. And I bounced into 29th. And I was honestly, I fought so freaking hard in the second half. I was pumped. I didn't get a check, but I was proud of how I did in the second half, no doubt.
So how does the points work for that one? Are you like are you like accumulating points to try to make the championship? Is that how it is, or is it like AOI, or what is it?
Yeah, the same deal, kind of like in Tourney Tuesday. You're just like you're accumulating points, golf style, and I think they take the top 30 at the end of the year. And no entry fee tournament. The top 30, winner takes all, fishes for like a $70,000 skeeter boat. So it's like if you can make it to the ship, you just got to beat a 30 boat tournament. Win a 30 boat tournament, and you win a freaking boat.
And right now, and because of that finish, Sobi, that was big. You're sitting in 22nd in points with the St. Croix River left.
And there's just one derby to go.
Yeah, he's 13 points ahead of 30th.
Hell yeah.
Nice.
But St. Croix River, I'm intrigued to cover that one. That one's going to be a wild card. Nobody really knows what's going to happen there.
Interesting.
Have you ever fished there, Pink?
I've not.
Yeah, I've fished on the Croix quite a bit. Yeah.
Over by Hudson or the way north Croix?
Over by Hudson. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts of the fishery in general?
I think it's very diverse because that part of the river has so much going on. You know what I mean? Like, because you got those areas kind of like actually around Hudson that set up more like lakes because they're just bigger and slower, less current. And then you got kind of the actual like channel areas where it's more like you'd think with like wing dams and the whole thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you kind of got a lot going there. There's grass in a lot of that section too, where there's like not much current. So I don't know. It's cool. And there's, pretty healthy population of largies and smallies. So I don't know like what the top end is. I've fished it a bunch. I've caught quite a few bass in there, but there's a ton of bait. So it's like, it's cool because the fish are aggressive as hell when you find them usually. So
yeah. And that's kind of what I've heard. The hard part is finding them.
Yeah. But because there's numbers of fish when you find them, it's like any river system. They're sitting on something. And once you find what that is, you can just beat them down. But
that's sweet.
I don't know. I've enjoyed fishing there the times I have. I can't say I've honestly put in like crazy days down there, but I've fished it enough to be like, it's pretty fun. But
dang, that should be good then. I think it's just such a toss up and a wild card. I kind of like that too, because like, it's not like a Tonka hammer, gull hammers, or whitefish hammers are coming out and fishing a lot of memories. I feel like it's going to be a lot of just like who figures them out in the couple days before the derb that'll really crush.
Yeah. So, yeah, that should be cool. When is that one?
First week of August.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just curious what the water.
I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a scheduling conflict with recording that week too, but we'll deal with it in a few weeks.
Yeah, because I know that area, the water's been like crazy high.
Yeah, I think it just got down to you can actually put a boat in on the rivers.
Yeah, because I just drove over that yesterday. I was coming back from Wisconsin last night, and that when you come over the bridge there, all those sandbar islands like north of that over the bridge there were like starting to be visible now. And they've been under like 10 feet of water for like weeks.
Wow.
So,
well, besides Champs Tour stuff, what have you been up to, Ryan? You've been freaking greasing.
yeah, I've been doing a lot of fishing. Work sucks. The huge, been working on the boat a little bit more, which has been good. Getting that set up a little bit better. I mean, the boat's set up. It's more getting the boat kitchen dialed in.
Do you got the Traeger ripping? Like, does it work?
Yeah.
Have you made something on it yet?
Yep. Officially, the first boat meet has been engaged. So
what'd you make?
I did a big chunk of elk backstrap on the boat, which was pretty lit. I mean, yeah. So I got a this like custom whatever bracket thing on the back to put a Traeger Ranger basically on like the back corner of my boat, which is dope. So that pretty much bolts on there. It's got some like pins that hold it on, and then it runs on like a Dakota lithium box. So it's just like, a standalone kind of thing. And
that's so sick.
Yeah. Working. The last thing is just getting this like countertop thing in, which is going to be so sick. So that'll be like basically like down the gunnel, it like latches onto the rail on the side of the boat, and then we'll just be straight kitchen mode in the back in the cockpit of the boat. So
that'll be so sweet,
Jesus.
dude. I always like, anytime I'm at Intune, I like see those pontoons that like have a little mini grill rigged up on the back end, and I'm always like, that is so sweet. And then there's you that has like a legit
this is gonna kick
smoker.
the shit out of that, dude.
Dude, someone's gonna be just roasting some freaking ballpark Franks, and you're like, oh, no big deal. I just have like an elk backstrap, slow smoking.
Yeah, I know. So I'm pumped to kind of like get more use out of that or whatever. So that should be kind of fun. And because like I was actually kind of like the last Tourney Tuesday we fished out of my boat, I was like, I should have just brought that. I was like, I thought it was gonna be just a grinder. And I was like, we might as well just have smoke rolling the whole time,
You should, dude. You should tomorrow. You should just straight up frog all night, literally just stay on the trolling motor and just roll smoke.
I need like the perfect wind though, to just be like, I got to get on like the upwind end of the lake and just like stay there.
Just smoke everyone out.
Yeah, just everyone's like, God damn it. So that's been fun. But yeah, I've been doing some musky fishing the past several weeks. Not like a lot. I got to do more around here. I've been popping back to northern Wisconsin a little bit. And like the fishing's been like good and bad, I guess. I don't know. For me anyway. I know people have been crushing them. Like I was talking to some people that had just been blasting them, especially at night. And I was like, okay, well. But yeah, the metro fishing has been very streaky. I wanted to spend more time tiger fishing by now, but I'll probably start doing maybe that the next couple weeks here. Doing like some dedicated Tiger Town missions, trying to find a big one, but we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Will you throw the same size baits for tigers, or will you downsize a little bit?
I pretty much downsize when I'm like specific. Like when I go to the Tiger Lakes, I'm definitely throwing like smaller stuff, but I don't know. I think you could catch them on the bigger stuff, but it's like, I think you up your odds a lot by downsizing. You know what I mean? Unless, because if, right, like the big ones, like the 40, 45 inchers that are in those lakes, like I think they'll eat whatever. But your average is not that big. You're chasing like a lot of those mid-30s tigers and stuff. And for whatever, they just like those smaller baits, dude. Like, because how many do you hook when you're bass fishing? Just like flipping a Texas rig around, like a ton. So, I don't know. I think they're eating the same stuff the bass are eating. They're not on like a totally different forage. Like you'd think they'd be crushing all those crappies and stuff, but they just hang around all those little bluegill schools, just like the large.
Well, and there really isn't like a big forage for them to go after, not like Cisco's or those
you'd
type
think,
of things.
I was like, how do they not just hammer all these crappies? But it's like, I suppose the ones they're in, there's a lot of like 6 and 7 inch crappies,
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, everybody knows all those Tiger Lakes. It's not like they're a secret deal. It's just like, people don't do them that much. But there's been the times I've been out, there's definitely a group of people, like dedicated scopers, that are tiger fishing now. And I've been seeing like a handful of the same boats on all the lakes. Like they're just popping around. But I don't know. I mean, there's a little bit of that going around, and it's effective. I mean, I've been seeing them when I've been out there, just looking around at like some of those bluegill schools and stuff. So But the bass fish, like I honestly, the only bass fishing I've been doing has been for like tourney Tuesdays. Like outside of that, I've been fishing for other stuff. Like I think, yeah, you guys weren't here last time, but I was just salmon fishing over on Lake Michigan, and that was fun. And then literally came home, and then I think we recorded, and then I went and did fish tourney Tuesday. So we haven't like practiced for any of these Tuesday nighters. We've just been going fishing.
Speaking about tourney Tuesday, I heard you got DQ'd.
We did.
What'd you
did.
do?
We got DQ'd last week, and it was
Straight
the first
DQ'd.
Yeah,
Adam, you and I
there's never
fished for
been a
half decade
DQ in
together.
Tourney Tuesday history. I
It was
heard about that. Everyone was asking me what you did, like it was some huge controversy.
Yeah,
so
and it was
free it up.
And it was the first week we actually caught him too. We were actually having really a lot of fun, and we were like, "Fuck yeah!" And then, so they, it wasn't anything like I wish it was like a better story, right? Like we actually would have done something bad, but we didn't, unfortunately. We just we just came in late, was it? And we were like, because they moved the check-in time like 15 minutes after the 4th of July, I guess, or whatever.
Yeah, because sunset's a little earlier.
Yeah, or whatever. So we didn't do that.
You didn't realize all the boats were ripping back, or
no, we didn't see another boat like the whole time.
oh dang.
Like I don't know, because I think there was only like 1 or 2 boats maybe fishing the end of the lake we were even on, and they left that end like way early in the night or whatever. So we were fishing our last spot, and we were just like grinding it out over there, and we're like, we'll just run in, and then it got to the end, and we just ran back across, whatever. And then we got to the thing, and we're like, oh shit. Because like I think when we pulled up, we were like, oh, this seems not like correct, probably.
Boats are coming out already.
Yeah. So anyway, whatever. So yeah, we waited our fish, and we were like, yeah, we were late or whatever. And it was funny because it's like I don't know like who it was or something, but like obviously we were late. And I think Connor was even like, hey, like we weighed our fish, but we're like, hey, we were late, you know. And they did. Even the guys running the thing were like, I don't actually know what happens when you're late. So they had to like look up the rules. And but there was like one dude there that was like, he was like adamantly being like going out of his way to be like, they were late. They were like telling it, you know what I mean? Like we were gonna try to like slide in there and be like, we were late. Like let's weigh our fish or whatever. So I don't know what the fuck that was, but yeah.
Cutting him off later this year for sure.
But I was like, and it was funny because I was like, so Griff fished that one, right?
Yeah.
He fished with Steph. Well, you know that obviously, but so Griff fished, and they weighed in like 1 bass, right? Like they had like such a shitty night. Like I think they literally caught 1 keeper, and I was like, fuck, the one tournament I fished against Griff and I actually beat him and I got DQ'd.
I know, dude. That stinks. That stinks. Because now you can't even chirp him. You can't even be like, hey, remember when you got 1? He'll be like, remember when you got DQ'd?
Like, damn it. But yeah, whatever. So it was kind of funny actually. But yeah, I don't know. We kind of had a fun tournament though, because we got on a little pattern actually. We were able to like run it in a couple different areas. So it's been a while since I was able to do that in a tourney Tuesday, since like the lakes don't really fish that way. Typically,
yeah, they tend to be spot lakes.
Yeah, so we had found the lake we were fishing on is like a part of a river system. So it has like, unlike a lot of our lakes here, it actually has like shad in it. And we just kind of found an area, like we were seeing them on live, and then we saw some get like busted through and they jumped, and they were like 5-inch shad. And like a lot of the stuff we were fishing was all like bluegills, like in these little clumps of coontail, like along brush and stuff. And we started seeing all these shad schools, but they were only on it was like banks that had like flooded trees, but no weeds. Like it was totally bare outside of them. And it wasn't like a significant break or anything. It was just like they had room to like push into the brush there. And I think we caught almost every keeper we had on just a white spinnerbait, just like slow rolling it along like brush lines and stuff where there was like these shad schools. And like throughout the night, it got progressively better. Like
really
going towards the, yeah. And so it was kind of like that. And then Connor was catching some of them like behind me on like a wacky rig and just like skipping it under a tree and then just like setting his rod down, like just letting it soak, dude.
Dang.
And then just like pick it up like 30 seconds later and he's like, oh, there's one. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know, it was pretty fun, and caught
Any
one
on-
pretty big ass pike on a buzzbait on the first spot. I'm like burning this buzzbait, and it just got nuked, and I was like, good Lord. Like, yeah, so that was fun. But
Any other bites on topwater?
we caught two. Well, yeah. So towards the end, we'd kind of beat up the spot pretty good, and we're like, last go through it. And Connor was like, he really wanted to catch it on a popper, and we ended up catching, I think, 2 or 3 on a popper right at the end, a white popper, but they were short.
Dang.
They ended up being like 11.5 inches, But no, I think that that one pike was the only topwater like actual bite we converted that was like, something. But no, there was and there was no surface. That was what was killing me. I was like, dude, there's bait everywhere, and there's like no surface, anything happening, like at
That's
all.
weird.
And I'm looking at it on live, and there is just like clouds of shad, and there's bluegills all over the place, and there's not like a dimple on the surface anywhere.
I still I've never done it, but especially on a lake like that where it seems like there's a lot of bait. Like, I wonder if the topwater bite at night just goes crazy. I want to try bass fishing the Metro at night,
that'd
dude.
be fun, dude.
That's got to be a really good rat lake at night.
I would think that could be a thing, because like I said, as it was getting darker, the bite was getting stronger for sure. But I don't know. I mean, it could be fun. You just have to find like some of those structures that you're like, how is there not fish on this?
Yeah.
Like especially on that lake, there's some good like structure like in the middle of the lake. But yeah, I don't know. Like I said, there was some good bags caught. Like, it's not like we plowed them. We caught a bunch of fish and it was fun, but we didn't have like, mega weight or anything. I think we only had 2, maybe 3 good ones in the whole bag, but it's fun to just get some bites and be able to like run around and catch some fish finally. But
yeah.
Speaking
this popped my memory too. Like, and I want to get into the tournament you were just at, Adam, the Bassmaster Open, but like you were just saying earlier, like your schedule's conflicted to be here. And I was just thinking, like, there was a good shot you wouldn't even be here right now because you'd probably still be in Florida. Because Adam just went to iCast, and I had a bunch of buddies who went to iCast too, and a bunch of them are still like stranded down there.
Oh, because of the airline deal.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of like out of the loop. Cue me in on what happened with the whole airline deal. I was supposed to meet up with some different people, and they're all still stuck in Florida.
So there was like, I don't know what the name of it is. I think it was called CrowdStrike, something like that. It was like some sort of thing that was like crashed like the Microsoft like server thing or so. I don't know what all the details are. I kind of just heard about it like secondhand. But basically, it was just like a massive, like, technological, like, server meltdown, and it affected like tons of business, not just airline stuff. So basically, just like all their systems just stopped working. So like all the like scheduling of like flights and all that information is just like gone.
Dang.
Yeah. So like I think
I got lucky.
Yeah,
like big time lucky. You did a quick turn and burn, Adam, and at first thought I was like, that was a really short trip, but now you're probably like, perfect.
Yeah, I got really lucky.
Yeah. Like I saw, I don't know if it was, well, I'm sure
there's
it was
still
because
people
of that.
stuck there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I saw DeMarkey, like he was on his way home and from Utah. He was in Salt Lake City for Total Archery Challenge, and he's just chilling in Vegas.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Is DeMarkey a gambler?
No.
No.
I don't know. I think he was just sitting by a pool or something. Like he was just chilling.
Dang.
So I don't know, but yeah, dude, I heard about that, and like I have not been like watching the news at all, really. So I've just been like catching little snippets of like crazy shit happening in the world when I'm like at a China buffet or something, like looking at a TV.
Yeah.
Like, oh damn, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't know. It's good. Yeah, that would suck if you were like stuck down there, unless you had like stuff to do, I suppose. But
how was your first iCast experience, Adam?
A short. I was in Florida for like 18 hours.
Because you were in Brainerd on Tuesday at 3:00.
Yeah, and then I drove back to my house. I had to go to Intune and get my boat. And then got home, literally went to bed at like 11 or midnight, drove to the airport at 3 or 4 and flew down there, got there at like 11. Me and Leitner and Courts were to get on the same flight. So we Ubered to iCast together. And then, yeah, I mean, it's super cool. It's really cool because there's like, I mean, Sobi, you've been there before. There's no general public. It's all buyers or sales reps or whatever. So it's like, it's cool because anyone you're talking to, you're like, well, they're probably important.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, it's just like all industry professionals.
Yeah. So you're talking to people and people are coming up and talking to you. And it was sweet because, I mean, I had a handful of meetings I needed to do for stuff for next year, next ice season and everything. And it was nice because I had been like trying to line up phone calls for like a month. And then finally I was like, hey, I'm just coming to iCast. Let's just chat there. And they're like, oh, perfect. That'll be so much easier. So it ended up working out. So it was definitely worth my time just to get down there and chat with everybody and get on the same page on a bunch of different things. But yeah, it was super cool. I mean, I was mainly down there. We released, now we can actually talk about it.
Let's do that. That's cool.
So we released Niku Plastics with Clam. So yeah, we've been keeping that under wraps for like 18 months to 2 years now.
Give me
long
kind of a
time
rundown
now.
of what Niku Plastics are and your guys' kind of involvement.
Yeah.
That's like a super sweet project.
I guess I'll just like brief overview. It's basically a collaboration between the Crappie Chronicles and Clam, like basically on a brand new line of soft plastics for ice fishing that like collect, like, yeah, you said we've been working on it for over a year with them. Like everything from like all the designs, the colors, like the packaging, like everything. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't know, like
logos.
I'm sure I'm forgetting like tons of stuff, but like, yeah, just like every aspect
and
of like,
basically
what it is.
This came up because I mean, just peek behind the industry for people when you go and have your sponsor meetings and stuff for the year. You know, you talk about budgets or whatever you're going to do and all that. And a couple of years ago, we had brought up like, hey, you know, we target these really big fish. People tend to, you know, they ask us what we like to use and stuff. And we want to use these certain products or we want to design some baits because there's nothing out there that fits the bill of what we need or we want to use. And Clam had brought up in that meeting, then they were like, hey, we were thinking about doing some new plastics. And then it just kind of morphed together naturally there. So the whole thought process behind it wasn't for everybody just asked if Mackey's going away. Mackey's not going away at all. That's still going to be there and be a big part of Clam. Niku's there for the designs are very intricate. They are very specific and they're like two-tone colors. They have fleck. They're much more based around like a bass or walleye.
They're like high detail soft plastics.
They're high detail soft plastics. And like we designed this stuff, like we sat down and drew these and then sent them to Nipper and we're like, we want it like this. And then when they were talking to the mold guy, it's like, we want it to do this. So the mold guy would be like, okay, yes, I can do that profile, but we need to modify it a little bit like this.
Right.
If you want this action.
Well, and it was like, yeah, or like these appendages, like we can't cut the CNC mold like that intricate or like whatever. Like there was like modifications like for that type of thing too, or just to get the detail right. Or they're like, well, we couldn't shoot it that way because like the legs won't like go into the mold properly or whatever. Like there's a lot of that.
Where'd you guys come up with the name Niku? Or where does that come from?
That's so Davis and Nipper came up with that. Niku is Japanese for meat.
Yeah, like, really? That's so sweet.
Yeah. So that like that symbol that's like kind of been integrated into the logo is like the like calligraphy like symbol for that.
Yeah.
So
meat plastics. I like that.
Yeah, pretty much, dude.
Neat.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's cool. And like, cause we even messed around with like different scent and stuff. Like we're literally in like Bart's parents' basement, like squirting like squid juice into these like plastic bags. And we're like, that shit smells bad, dude.
but
yeah.
honestly,
But
that's
we
so
ended
cool.
up, so we ended up settling on like, for people wondering, because like all these ice plastics have anise, almost all of them are anise. And we wanted to do something different because we're like, well, why are we using anise? Like, let's do something that fish are actually looking for. So we went with shrimp, because if you talk with literally any ice fisherman in the world, the best ice fishing lakes or panfish lakes, whatever it is, they're all shrimp based. And we've noticed putting that scent into plastics, like the commitment and just everything through the ice is so much better. But yeah, so then we designed them all. Then we had to come up with the colors. And Sobi, like, you'll understand this, and we're looking at the colors of the ice industry, and they're all like the same 8 plain colors. Like you got white, chartreuse, glow, green pumpkin, motor oil, black, pink, and
well, and right away the guy
like,
the guy that's making the molds and like shooting the plastic, like that was the initial thing. He's like, well, we're capable of doing like laminated colors. And we were like, sick.
Yeah.
So we were like wanted to lean on that right away.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So Sobi, you'll notice like a lot of the colors are pulled from the bass industry. So I think
which are going to crush, because like how many drop shot baits do you throw out there and just like they smoke at the pan?
My favorite part of the whole thing was like, we do Morning Dawn, right? Like we all know Morning Dawn. It's pink and purple for anybody that doesn't know. But we bring this up to the ice fishing groups, and it just shows how different the community of ice fishing is from open water or bass fishing. Just completely different people. Because we bring this color over to the ice fishing group that we're filming stuff with, and they're like, dude, how'd you guys come up with this? This color's insane. Like,
this is gonna
crush. And in my head, I'm like, this is literally the top selling.
Yeah, they sold
like
1 million packages.
You're like, it's been good
for the last 20 years.
It's
like,
proven,
it's been number one. There's at least 20 renditions of Morning Dawn with different fleck colors and everything. But so we got to do all the colors. And then last year in the winter, if people were watching Chronicle videos and saw blurred out stuff, it was because we were testing stuff while we were filming. And
when it was working so good,
it worked
like
so
we were
good.
going out of our way to be like, okay, like no one's using any of the Niku stuff today. Like we can't, because we need like actually be able to use the video.
That's so cool, and I'm excited. Like I'm excited for the shrimp, like the shrimp scent, and I just think like that's an underutilized thing. And we're not going to go on a tangent about ice fishing just because it is July, but I feel like scent will be the next really, really big thing in ice fishing, just because like you're already limited to, 8 inches. And obviously, like whether it's oversizing your bait or, downsizing, like scent in general, I feel like that could be a key big time, especially triggering really, really big fish. At night.
Yeah, exactly. And I think another thing that's really big with it, people notice immediately, the type of plastic we used is way more durable than what other people have in the industry. It's not like Elastec, so it's not like that, but it's in a sense of like, you're not going to drop your bait down, catch 2 or 3 fish, leg gets tore off, now you got to re-rig, the whole school moved. Like, you can drop a bait down and start pinwheeling and maybe just adjust slightly.
That flutter fry, I put one on at the photo shoot that we did in, when did we do that? The end of February or early March or something?
Yeah.
And I had it on a little tungsten jig, just one of those drop TG jigs. I used it for that whole weekend, crushed fish on it, didn't really go ice fishing after that, just cut the jig off, tied it on my crappie rod in the spring, and I used it the entire crappie season, and I never took that one plastic off of it.
Yeah.
I think
which is probably not good for like selling them, because like you literally
they'll still sell like a netter egg,
but I was like, damn,
it's the same thing as Elastec.
I don't know, dude.
You're still gonna sell a pile, but yeah, so we're really pumped about it. And then so that's why part of the reason I was at iCast was that was debuting. So I got to be there for that.
It looks like cool. It went over well though. I mean, like the social media stuff went well.
went over super well. The people who were there, like McComas was there from Target Walleye and for ice and stuff. So I chatted with him. Those people who are in the ice industry were super, super pumped about it.
What did McComas think about that flutter fry? Did he think that was going to be a walleye bait?
I talked to him about it actually, because he was just loved the colors, because he's a bass guy too. So he was just like, I can't believe nobody's done this.
Yeah.
It was like me too. But yeah, so he was super pumped. And then I was like, dude, that flutter, like we used it not only for crappies and gills, but then we ended up at some other places that people see footage of next year. That we used them for some magnum perch and walleyes. Yeah. And it is such a good walleye plastic.
Sick. With those wings on it, dude, it glides like insanely far.
Yeah, it's really
like when you drop it down, it like flies out of your cone, like it goes that far out.
Yeah.
But
so that's how my iCast stuff was.
Yeah.
We'll chat about all my other stuff after this. We're got our guests rolling in now, so
bring them in.
Sobi, you got an introduction?
No, you introduce him. You introduce him.
This is always your thing. I was not prepared for this at all.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome a Wisconsin native, a longtime pro, Matt Stefan.
Wow.
Thanks for having me on, boys.
One of the only people to see Bigfoot, right, Stefan?
Oh, man, that's the direction you want to take this already? Dude, I didn't know you were coming out with baits.
Yeah,
surprise!
A lot of people didn't.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that. I was the one. I mean, not that I'm looking to give you advice, but the one thing I would say that I've learned is doing something different's not bad. In fact, the industry, regardless of whether it's open water or hard water, if you can do something different, you separate yourself from 90% of the other companies that are out there. And generally speaking, it'll be well received by a good portion of the community, which is probably enough to, keep you afloat.
Yeah. So speaking of that, so you have Core Tackle rolling now. How has that all been going, and all the designs there, and being a business owner now, not necessarily just a pro angler?
Yeah. It's a whole different position, right? From a fishing standpoint, you're looking at just catching fish to make a career out of it. And now it's, how do you help people catch fish? And, man, it's just been an eye-opening experience. We didn't have the intent to make a tackle company. Our intention was to design baits for ourselves and our personal use to help us do well in tournaments. And, because the process is pretty expensive, it was, hey, if we can, sell a couple. Sell a couple through our website, promote it through our own social media outlets. Maybe we'll be able to break even and I can have the baits that I've wanted. And they've been so well received that it turned into, we have a great opportunity here. Let's try to really put the pedal to the gas and, try to make a brand out of it. And it's been a ton of work, but it's been amazing. It's not necessarily been lucrative for us at this point, because in order to grow, you kind of, for us in our position, it was, we're going to put the money that we make and buy more inventory, right? So you sell 1 pack, you can kind of buy 2 packs after that. You sell those 2, you can buy 4. So for us, to grow, it's been a lot of reinvestment back into the company. But, like I said, we didn't get into it to feed our families. We got into it to make baits. And, now I think there's potential for it to be a good thing down the road. But, right now it's still more along the lines of, we've got a lot of cool ideas, and we've got a lot of things that are really close to coming out that, are completely different from anything that's out there. And I'm excited to see how they come out. Because the one thing I will say, if you do things that are unusual, you don't for me at least, I don't know that everyone's going to see it the way I see it, right? Like I see this thing and I'm like, oh my God, this is cool. It's going to fill this void. And, you know, there's a lot of anglers out there that no matter what you say or do will tell you you're completely wrong, right? So from that standpoint, it's like there's always a little bit of nervousness, but, you know, I still feel like if you're making products that you feel good about and you can catch fish with, that's really what it comes down to.
That's kind of the beauty in fishing, though, too. It's like I think people will find your product and they might utilize it a different way than you even thought expected too. So it's like people could be, that's kind of the cool thing. It's like there's not a wrong or a right way, and people find different applications for different tackle all the time.
And the cool part with that is if you're building things and coming out with things that are a little bit more unusual or different from the norm is what I would say. At least for us, what we found is that there are so many different applications and everyone takes it and they apply it to their own fishing. So it's not unusual for me to get emails or comments from people where they're like, man, I took this out for, you know, walleye, or I took this out for brown trout and I've been absolutely crushing them. And I'm like, I probably would never have done that, but now I've got that information and I can take that and help some other anglers in those same areas try to catch them the same way. You know, I think one thing anglers do quite often is we always try to assume we know why the fish bit our bait, right? Like it always frustrates me when you hear an angler tell another angler, you were wrong, you should have done this. Because the reality is we don't know what the fish are doing. We don't know why they bit our bait. I think we can put together good conclusions as to why something worked, but we have no control over another living creature. So for an angler to tell another angler they were wrong for what they did is generally not a positive thing. I think, you know, an angler can definitely suggest different things you can do to try to help an angler catch fish, but it frustrates me when I hear people tell, you know, like I get it all the time. I put a video out and people are like, you're completely wrong. And I'm like, okay, well, I didn't tell you there's only one right way to do it. This was my suggestion and it's what's worked for me over the years.
Well, fishing, like especially tournament wise and everything, all it is a series of educated guesses, and whoever makes the best series of educated guesses wins. That's basically what it is.
Yeah, I can see that. But don't you feel like there's like multiple, like you go, it's like there's a endpoint, like there's, you know, A to B. It's like there's a lot of ways to get A to B that you would think you're right. You know what I mean? Like, but you end up in the same position where you would like be successful. So it's like you could do a variety of things and still make it happen. So like, yeah, that makes sense that it's like there's not right and wrong, I guess. But
is Matt frozen for you guys, or is that just me?
He's frozen for me too, but I might be able to hear him.
Yeah, I think we can hear you.
Well, kind of.
Oh boy, he's a robot.
Why don't you leave and come back in, Stefan?
Okay.
One thing I'm interested to ask Matt is I don't know, and maybe that's just because different pressured fisheries are getting tougher. The old ways of how I used to catch fish are not working. Like I feel like the older I get, and obviously I don't have a fraction of the experience. Okay, this is my question to you, Matt. Just because you're talking like when people say, "Oh, that's completely wrong," or blah blah blah, or this is just, or this is right. Some people talk about fishing so much as like, "Oh, this is the right way," or "This is just." I don't have a fraction of experience you do, but the older I get, I go through stretches where sometimes I feel like I know less now than I did. Or I just feel that way sometimes.
It was easier when you had less information.
Yeah, it was easier. Like when I was younger, things seemed easier. This worked.
When I was just like, you win on this rock pile, so you sit on this rock pile all day.
When your biggest decision was like frog or worm.
Yeah, maybe that's because like you had less cards in your back pocket. But like there's times now where I just feel like I know less now than I ever did. It seems like that way, or I don't know.
I really think we're getting to the point where we're overcomplicating it.
Probably.
It's man, you should be throwing 4-pound tests instead of 6. You need to be throwing this shade of green pumpkin instead of this shade. And, you know, going back to what we were saying right before I froze, I honestly think 50% of the game is mental, right? And I think a lot of us come up with the conclusions as to why we caught the fish that we did. And we're doing it really to satisfy our own mental state, to give us confidence that, hey, I caught that fish because I did this, 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 and this. When the reality is the next guy behind you could have been doing something completely different and could have caught that same fish doing something different. So, I think the confidence aspect of it is really good. But, Sobi, I agree with you. I've feel like there's a lot of times where I'm really overcomplicating what I'm doing, and I think a lot of times that's me trying to figure out a new pattern. Like every time I see something new, I like to try to jump on it and try to add it to my arsenal. But so often it's like, I find myself going, why am I doing this when I know I can do this and catch that same fish?
Yeah.
And it's like, how much, fishing tackle do we need in our boat, right?
Oh,
like,
dude,
I really think you can pare it down and get by with.
Says the guy that you can't even see the wall of his house.
It's my job. Those are tools. Yeah.
No, I agree. I agree with you, Steph. And that like makes me one thing. Forward facing has taught me, and like it kind of, I've been using it more now and thinking of it more. Because I witnessed it when I was at the Open on St. Clair. Like you talk about different pound test and all this stuff. When I was going out there, like Clearwater, I've never been to St. Clair before the off limits and everything. I was talking to someone. You're not on a no info thing right now, right?
No, I'm not going.
Okay, I'm just,
totally blows the whole.
Yeah, deal. I just wanted to make, you get in these weird things, but well, it'd be public domain anyway, so it'd be fine. But anyways, I was talking to someone before the cutoff and everything, and I was like, okay, like, do I need to go down a test or whatever? And something they said that like now it resonates in my head, like everywhere I go, is like when you find the ones that'll win, it doesn't matter. Like 10 pounds good on your drop shot. You don't need 6.
Yeah.
And that's what I noticed going around with forward facing and stuff was when I got around the big ones, they ate because they're predators and they want to eat. Yeah. Whereas when I got around like the 3.5, 3 3/4 lower 4s that are like kind of in a school and pressured and stuff, they were really tricky to get to bite. And in my head, I'm like, well, these aren't the fish that are going to win anyway. So go find the ones that are going to win because they're bigger. And I've noticed that now on other fisheries as well. It's like, okay, when you get around, like find, and that's always been my theory as a tournament fisherman, is there's guys who make fish bite. I'm way better when I just go find fish that want to bite. And that's kind of what I roll by. So I agree with that a ton.
Yeah. And I think there's also times if you want to break that down, using your example too, because that's been something that is always kind of surprised me, right? We're from the North Country. Everyone is like small diameter line. You got to go small. And then these guys from Texas will come up and they're catching, they're catching the smallmouth we've always thrown 6-pound test for, and they're throwing 10, 12, 15 pound. And you're like, oh, they're missing bites. But, sometimes I do think that the fact that they're doing that could be something that's helping them, right? If they're throwing a bigger diameter line, maybe their bait's falling slower. Maybe if it's fluorocarbon, maybe the bait's staying closer to the bottom if they're dragging a bait. Like there's different things that different lines can actually make a difference on. And again, it comes down to if that more times than not, if a fish is actively feeding, they're going to eat a can of tuna if you throw it by them.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they're going to eat, I often feel like the best anglers out there, they generally have confidence that is through the roof. They generally are really good at locating fish. And then the third thing is they're really good at getting inactive fish to bite. And that's generally through some sort of reactionary, method. But if you can do those 3 things, you're going to catch fish everywhere you go.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I like that. So I have a question, since we were kind of just touched on core tackle and everything. So obviously you were like, we want to make baits that like we want to use and that type of thing. But what was like the first, there has been like the spark, like the first bait that you're like, dude, this is what we got to like base this around. Like, I know you have like other, like multiple things. It's not like you just make one thing, but like, what was like the initial trigger? Like, this is where we're going to start with this. Cause I feel like that's like kind of like the staple of like maybe like your brand and everything, and like, you know, the ideas that you have?
So so it's Johnny Schultz and myself are 50-50 owners. And,
Yeah.
you know, Johnny is another YouTuber. He's Fish the Moment. We, you know, I've known him for a while. We were on a phone call and we were just talking fishing. Like, you know, he's a phenomenal angler and we were just bouncing ideas off each other. And we actually, so the hover rig was our first bait we came out with, but the first one we designed was what we call the ultimate swim bait head, or the tush. So it was made for swim baits, and it's just an internally weighted swim bait head. So there's no head on it. The weight's all on the shaft of the body. Slide the swim bait up over it. And that was the result of just a conversation where we were talking about swim baits, and we were like, man, we'd like a bait to ride a little bit different. And we were catching them like on a basically on like a stop and go retrieve, but we were tight lining the swim bait. So when you stop it, you let it kind of pendulum down. And with a jig head, it would kind of fall more vertical, right? And we wanted a bait to stay more horizontal as it pendulum down. And I was like, you know, I've had this idea of, you know, like a swim bait head that is in the body, because I helped with the Matt Stefan guppy headed with dirty jigs. So, you know, I've always tackle tinkered. Like that's always something I've done. So I just kind of had that idea, and I said it to Johnny, and Johnny like is immediately like, man, I've actually been kind of playing around with that idea too, to the point where he actually like sent over some like, I guess you call them prototypes. They were really, you know, kind of crude prototypes, but, you know, things that he had worked with to actually use. And that's where the ball got rolling. I mean, it was simply, hey, we've both had this idea. Maybe we can make it, you know, actually take it and get it designed. And I mean, we had no idea how to do a mass production thing. So I, you know, made some calls. You know, we ended up going to Cast Industries, which is one of the bigger molding facilities in the US, and, you know, worked with their designers to get what we wanted and went about that way. But the thing is, so we had that done. And while we were doing that, the hover strolling was kind of more of a bigger thing, and not a big thing, but it was something that
everybody was watching YouTube and being like, how are these guys catching these fish?
Exactly.
Yeah, guys
Basically.
were starting. Yeah.
And you were the first one to come out with something that was like hover rig. People are like,
so
huh.
I mean, it was a technique that I was playing around with to try to, you know, figure out how I can implement it in my fishing. And I was catching a ton of fish, like on local lakes in the area. And the problem was, you know, you use a nail weight and a 90-degree jig head, and every fish you caught, you either ripped the worm off or your nail weight came flying out. So I mean, it doesn't, you know, it's not that hard to figure out what the hover rig looks like. It's a nail weight on a 90-degree jig head is really what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I designed that one and got that rolling, and we were, I don't know why we were more excited about that. So we actually released that one first, and, you know, got the ball rolling on it. And because that went over so well, we were able to take the funds from that and then just put that towards our swim bait head. And then, you know, that's kind of what's happened every time we've come out with a new product, and they've all gone over really well, to the point where it lets us roll the money into another product. And now we're at a point where we feel like we've actually got inventory levels at a pretty sustainable level, which is really nice, because for almost all of last year, it was just simply, you know, when's the back order coming in? And then you put a new order in thinking you had enough. And, you know, before that order even came in, you were sold out of everything again. So it was a stressful year. Yeah, it was a great problem to have, but it's also one where you can, as a new little startup company, you don't build great relationships with companies that are expecting to have product in their hands like 3 days after they order it, right? So, you know, there was a lot of like just pleading with shops to, you know, bear with us while we got them product, and it, you know, it worked out well, but it's a little bit stressful.
Besides like the supply and demand, what was like some of the other hurdles you had to go through, I guess biggest challenges when starting a brand new tackle company?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I'll say is one thing that we found out through the industry in working with a lot of people is we did not do anything normal. Like we went about like running the business how we thought we should run the business. And a lot of the players in the industry are like, you guys have not done anything the way that normal bait companies have done stuff. But from that standpoint, you know, I would say the biggest, not obstacle, but the most frustrating thing for me was just how long it would take to actually take a design, take an idea and work it all the way to like finished product. You know, we had prototype after prototype after prototype. And, you know, if it was us doing it in our basement, it would be like, you know, you make it, you go out to the water, you try it and you're like, this isn't right. You go back to the basement, you tinker with it and get it right. But the reality is when you're working with other companies, especially as a new startup company, they've got much bigger partners, right? So your stuff is kind of put more towards the end of the line. And it could be, you know, a couple weeks before you had the next round of prototypes, to even longer than that, to a month. So the process is a lot longer than I would like it to be. And that's not saying that I'm not, you know, the people we've worked with have all been great. It just is, they've got a lot of other things on their plate too. So for us, you want to be just moving. And the reality is it just takes a lot longer to bring something to fruition.
I gotcha. So moving on a bit from the tackle side, unless anyone's got any questions there. But what I'm kind of curious on is, so Stefan, obviously you started kind of in the industry with the whole pro angling route, doing the tournaments and all that sort of stuff. And then I don't know how long ago the YouTube thing started taking off for you, but really started doing the YouTube videos. And I think it'd be cool for, I guess, all of us to kind of chat about, just, we have very different corners of YouTube. I feel like in this chat right now, from Sobi to like what me and Pink do, to Stefan, like, what has that whole experience been like? And how did that start? Like, were you just like, hey, I'm going to sit downstairs and show some baits and talk to a camera, or like, you know what I mean? Like, what were you thinking on it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's put it this way. I was watching a lot of all of your guys' stuff, you know, beforehand for the most part. And, for me, the route was really more of a means to stay fishing, right? So like I wanted to keep fishing professionally, and I could kind of see the writing on the wall where the angler value was dropping. It's not like slowly, it's like really a sharp decline in angler value. And we had so we have Bridgeford team meetings. Bridgeford's my primary sponsor. And it was,
you gotta hang out with Moina.
I love Jim.
Jim is the best.
he is just a good dude. But I could talk to him for hours, dude.
So could I. He could talk to anyone for days.
He's just an interesting dude. So yeah, we had this Bridgeford team meeting, and I guess it's been probably about 3.5 years ago now. It was in the fall of whatever that puts it, 2020, something like that, where Bridgeford, I mean, they didn't require it, but they asked us to start YouTube channels. You know, at that time, Randy Blockett had been doing a channel, but I mean, I think he had like 5,000 subscribers, right? And so Bridgeford saw some good traction from Randy's channel, but what Bridgeford wanted to do is create our own fishing channel, right? Where all the anglers had good followings, to the point where, you know, maybe at some point we could have a Bridgeford fishing challenge type thing. And so they asked us to do it. And I remember Randy kind of talking about it, and Randy's like, man, I'm making $300 a month doing it. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, well, I really just want to keep my sponsorship, but like, you know, if I could make a few $100 at the same time doing it, like, that's not a terrible thing. And so I just kind of committed to it. And, you know, obviously I kind of followed along with, some of what Randy's done. You know, there are definitely similarities between the channels. And, you know, Randy's a friend of mine as well. So I picked his brain on things that have worked and haven't worked. And you know, at this point, he's definitely gone the route more of gossip, right, and drama in the industry, which I don't. I mean, I've got my opinions, but I really want to keep my channel more educational. Like at this point, you know, early in my career, I was all like, man, it's all secret. You can't talk about anything.
Mhm.
And, you know, what I've kind of found at this point is everyone knows everything anyways. And if they don't, they're going to find it out. So, you know, I having two little boys now, I'm more about like, I just like seeing people catch fish. So if I can help people catch fish, that's the route I want to go. So, you know, so like I do the daily video really that's attributed more towards Randy. I mean, at the time, Randy's like, man, the best thing I've done is done a daily video. So that's kind of what I've done. And I feel like that's probably been the best thing for my channel is consistent content. I mean, I've gone 3.5 years without missing a day at this point. So it's tough to keep that up, but it's also, you know, you make it a priority, you can do pretty much anything at this point.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, that's my route.
Have you hit the editing burnout like we all hit?
So I mean, I don't know that I call it a straight editing burnout. I'm more of a topic burnout.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's more
I
of
suppose if you do it every day for 365 days, how many topics are there in fishing? You know?
It's, and like, I don't necessarily want to do a bunch of crazy stuff either. Like that's not who I am. Like I mean, I could go do some crazy stuff, but I would say from an editing standpoint, the thing that gets me a little bit is, you know, I can sit down here and shoot a video and have it edited, you know, have my thumbnails and everything. It takes me an hour and a half, right? Like, you know, assuming,
so jealous.
well, but here's the thing, like that.
Yeah.
I love doing fishing videos. Like the video that came out today is me in my jet boat with my kids going up a tiny little river here in town, right? Awesome. And we went and caught some smallmouth. Kids are wading around chasing crawdads. Like it's honestly making those videos. They're not a, well, the one today is doing okay, but it's more because the thumbnail's good, right?
Yeah.
And that's what people click on. But the reality is, like, I make the videos because to me that's more of like a memory, right? Like I will go back, watch these videos with my two boys, my wife's with me. Like we had a blast doing it. But I also know that video is going to take me, you know, we were in the boat for 4 hours. It takes a heck of a lot longer to pull the video, edit the video. You guys know the routine, right? So that video probably took me 8 hours to put together.
Yeah.
I'm going to get no more views than I'd get if I sat in my basement and did a video. But I prefer doing that video. It's frustrating though to know that it's not probably going to perform any better, even though I put more work and effort into it.
Yeah.
Now you guys do such like better quality videos that I do feel like you can put more effort into videos and get more return for that. I just don't, you know, I feel like I could put 12 hours into the same video. It took me 4 hours to edit, but I don't think I'm going to get the return because I don't know the ins and outs like you guys do.
Yeah, I guess Sobi could probably speak to this as well. I've always thought that, like, say what you do and what maybe I do, like with the Chronicles stuff, and I would say what Sobi does with his creative editing style as well, is I feel like the best place to be on YouTube or making videos is either be extremely basic, or if you're going to dive into it and go like cinematic full bore, like really do it. And don't live in the middle, because
or once you start a style, you got to.
Or once you start a style,
because if you make a dramatic turn from what you've been doing, it usually doesn't go well.
Yeah, because like Sobi, you've messed with other stuff at times, haven't you?
Yeah, and I just think like I don't know. I think I see YouTube like fishing almost like there's times when you can way overcomplicate stuff, and there's times when you can keep it simple. And I think YouTube's so cool in general, just because like if somebody wants to see something or just see this, it's out there for them. If they want some gossip, they can jump over here. If they're like, oh yeah, I've heard about the hover rig for 3 weeks, but now I want to watch an in-depth detail kind of about this and how it was designed, boom, they can watch that. If they want to watch a cool story or a tournament or a trip, like it's all out there. So
dude,
it's
like tackle hacks. Like I know, for example, at least once a year, I relook up Bass's how to rig a stupid tube video because I forget it every single time. Every single time, I'm like, where do I put the hook to make sure this thing goes right?
Yeah,
and I do it every year.
But it is nice, like when you get a feel for like somebody's channel or style, because then it's like when you're looking for that certain thing, you know, like where to go.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because like Matt, like your videos, like I do watch some of them, and like I feel like they're pretty technical, which I kind of like, because it's like it gets your gears turning a little bit. But then I half like watch it because it's kind of like watching Planet Earth, where I can just be like chill and like I know it's gonna be like, you know, hey, like we're talking about bass, and you know, like it's chill.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's like I think you have a particular style. I don't really know how to describe it, but it is like very like this is Matt Stefan. You know what I mean?
Yeah, at this point, like I'm well aware my channel is not full of explosions and chicks with bikinis, right? Like you're getting.
We could.
I'll write that down.
A lot of people ask me, you know, if I was like a teacher before I was fishing, because they say I come across as a very educational type approach, and that's not like I can't necessarily say there's intent there. I do attribute a lot of it to my previous employment as a financial investigator, where everything was built upon steps, right? You learn the facts and then you talk about it, but you have to detail what the facts were to get to your conclusion. So I think that's probably kind of where my approach comes from. It's not, there's no intent or thought process behind that. It's just kind of how I speak, and it drives a lot of people nuts, because it's not unusual in a conversation for me just to grill somebody with questions, and I don't realize I'm grilling them. I've been trained to grill people with questions. So
I love when you get after Panger. It's my favorite thing in the world.
But yeah, I will say, like Sobi, you had mentioned, one of the great things about YouTube is you can find what you're looking for. I do, though, think it's important. And again, I am no YouTube guru. I'm never going to say I'm a YouTube guru. I don't study the algorithm. I don't like, to me, as soon as I try to do something to try to meet the algorithm, it flops. But
I think that's happened to me every single time too. I think Sobi's had that same experience as well.
I just think it's important to stick, though, to what you do. You know, I think you can skew away from it and try to experiment with things. But I also feel like, for me at least, like I've got a really loyal following at this point, and they expect certain things from me. This is kind of how I feel like, because when I do try weird things, generally speaking, I get some people are like, we really like that, or we get some people are like, go back to doing this or that. And I think as long as you've built a good solid base, most of those people are going to watch you regardless of what you do, which means most videos are going to have a minimum level of performance, versus some of the people that you see have like some random viral video that goes, and maybe they get a ton of subscribers out of it, but they don't end up being actual loyal followers, because they were hoping for everything to be like that viral video, and in turn that was just kind of a one-off instance.
For sure.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And yeah, trying to meet the algorithm and stuff. I mean, Sobi, how many times, I guess, for you that I remember talking to you and you being like, dude, Little Creek bank fishing videos are going ham right now. I'm going to go try it. Flop. And then you do it and flops, and you're like, God, every time.
and then he walks into the water one time with a
dude, that hand. Instagram reel.
Did
you ever see that, Stefan?
I don't know if I saw that one.
Oh, Sobi, you have to talk about it. It was seriously, it's by far the most viral moment any of us have ever had, and it's not that.
It didn't even make sense.
No, it was during that. It was like we were fishing early ice, right? Because we're all ice fishermen too, and we try to capture that. But like it was the El Nino winter, and we had like no ice, so I just like plowing into the open lake with all my ice gear on, whatever. Just being an idiot.
And it was like 4 seconds long.
Yeah.
I'm gonna text.
And it got like what?
Because it takes
How many
literally that
thousands
long.
of hours of watch time? And it was a 4-second video.
It's
yeah.
millions.
I wish it was on YouTube. I wish that had worked like on YouTube. Yeah. I don't.
So, well, here's a good question for you. Why do you think like some things will go viral on some platforms and on other platforms they don't work? Like as an example, I did a video on YouTube a long time, years ago, and it did okay. It was nothing special, and then I put it on Instagram as an Instagram short or a section of it, and it got 2 million views. And it's like it's the same. I mean, I literally just cut a section out and didn't edit, didn't do anything different. And it's like I think we will spend too much time trying to figure that out sometimes. And I know from like you guys do such good editing that there's probably ways to get into it. Like that's one thing when I talk with Johnny Schultz, he's got like formulas, right? Like every 4 seconds in the intro, you need to go to, you need to cut to a different thing. And then after 12 seconds, I cut to this. And it's like, he's got formulas and he's really good at like putting together well-viewed videos. I just like, to me, I'm like, well, if I did that, it like, I don't know. It would drive me nuts to try to put that video together.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's just like a formula or a right answer, because I really don't think there are, because I've watched so many channels that are giant, you know what I mean? And they have extremely slow starts where they don't tell you the who, the what, the where, the why, the how for the first 5 minutes. And I think there's also some human nature there where when you don't give away all the answers, some people can be kind of intrigued in that. Just like if you're explaining a hover rig, like in the first 5 seconds, you don't.
You're literally just walking in the water.
That's it. Million views.
He could have bought a house if he had put that on YouTube.
But I still think it's a little fugazi. Who knows what works and what doesn't?
It was unreal. I laughed so hard when I saw that video too.
Yeah.
That was good.
Oh
so Matt,
I want to get into
ahead,
this.
and
maybe you guys aren't ready to get into this, but I heard it just briefly on BTL. But if you guys are ready to get into this, I want to hear about kind of the trip that Bart is going to capture with you and Panger, and where you're at in the process. You don't have to give it all away, but just at least go over maybe what you hadn't gone over in previous podcasts, because it's super interesting.
You explain it so that Pink knows it, because Pink knows nothing.
They wouldn't tell me about this, and I asked.
Yeah,
and they said I had to wait. So here we are.
Well, I mean, I don't fully know if Panger and I really know what this entails, right? Like, I mean, I know what we're going after. So, the plan is to spend 10 days chasing the In Fisherman Master Angler Award. So there's 27 of them. We want to give ourselves 10 days to catch a fish that qualifies as a master angler in each of those 27 categories. So the reality is, like, I don't know that. I think if we could do 10, that would be pretty good, but we're gonna try to go all out for this,
So it's like trophy class fish of all time.
Yeah. So
master anglers.
I mean, I look at this all the time. So this is the master angler breakdown.
Yeah.
And it changes based on region. So, like a largemouth, if you catch it in region 5, which happens to be, or let's say region 1, which is the Midwest, it needs to be 6.5 pounds or 22 inches long. And, if you go to Florida, it's got to be 10 pounds or 24 inches. So like looking at the breakdown of all these different species, there's definitely places where we think we can do it. The problem for a lot of them is, a 20-inch smallmouth in our neck of the woods is pretty easy picking. But if I want to catch, I don't know, let's say a giant bluegill of 10 inches, I probably am better off going somewhere else that's not necessarily an easy drive away. Because if we've only got 10 days to do it, you don't want to spend a day driving to a location. We plan on burning some airfare for sure to do this. driving through the night. I mean, there's a lot of similarities with 39 hours. You know, I'm sure you Uncut Angling. I'm sure you guys have seen that. Like, that's
one of the best YouTube series of all time.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It's great. I mean, so like I'm not that we're necessarily setting this up to follow in that footsteps, but that's how it kind of just ends up being. If you're going to try to catch every one of these species, we're going to do it in 10 days. We don't want to waste our time sleeping. We need to figure out where to be sleeping. It wouldn't surprise me if one of us is fishing in the boat while the other one's sleeping in the boat, and Bart is filming everything. So he's going to be up for 240 straight hours.
I'll be dragging a Lindy rig in the back, baby.
Yeah. So I mean, it'll be.
Dude, you need the Traeger boat for this.
This came out in
the Traeger boat.
Yeah, what are you gonna eat? You've just thought about the fishing and the sleeping. What are you gonna eat?
Yeah, where was my phone call? You need like the on the water food truck? Like, I'm there, dude.
Yeah,
well, you laugh. Those are things we're trying to set up. So Panger's got a pretty good audience.
my number,
we're talking about having like people meet us at a ramp with a pizza, like things like that. You know, and we're not going to be able to tow our boat everywhere if we're flying. So we're calling in all the favors on this. We're going to reach out to a bunch of people, and I'm sure there's going to be people who are like, well, you went to a private lake or you had a guide or whatever. And it's like, it doesn't matter.
But I caught
yes,
it.
we did.
We're trying to go all out for this.
Link in bio.
Dude, I just found out I met a guy at a garage sale on Saturday who lives like, I'll say within 10 miles of me, because I don't want people knowing where I'm talking. He's got a private pond, and it's full of 10+ inch bluegills. And it's
really?
like, I mean, he was showing me pictures
Like,
of 12 inches.
Mark.
I was like, so I told him, I'm like, and he's like, hey man, he's like, if you want to bring the kids over, but he's like, only kids are allowed to fish. And so then I got into the whole spiel. I'm like, well, what if because we're trying to figure out a way to work
an adopted child from Oklahoma.
Matt is kind of a kid. How can I explain this to you?
He's an older kid.
He's an older kid.
What if I dress in really baggy clothes?
Yeah.
We'll put him in a Bob the Builder costume for will that make you feel better?
So it's just I don't know how it's gonna go. Like, we've got this grand illusion of just like complete, like, just going all out, but it's one of those things you could plan the airfare and then all of a sudden a storm rolls in and you're delayed for 24 hours, right? Like, you're like, there's a lot.
That's the best part of the film, though.
Yeah.
Like, for my side, like, when you guys were talking about it, when it first came up, I was listening to the BTL replay. I think the day it came out, I was on Tonka listening to it. And I texted Panger halfway through, and I was like, if you don't have me come along to film this, I'm going to be so mad. And he's like, will you come? I'm like, yes, 100%. Yeah, I'm all in. I want to do that. This is all my style. I'm in.
I really, for some reason, I envision like the last species, whatever the last species is, like coming back off the water and having like thousands of people at the boat ramp, just like, like all 27 species in 10 days.
They're like, yes, I did catch a 25-inch chain pickerel just now. I can't believe it either.
Well, one thing I got to know is regardless of the deals, did you kind of open your wallet and drop some coin at that garage sale to solidify the ends at that 10-inch bluegill pond?
Yeah, not only did I buy some stuff that I didn't want to buy, he had a pile, on like a blanket labeled free. And like he had like a bunch of random Easter baskets, that were
Matt's like, no, I need to pay you for this, sir.
Yeah.
He didn't angle him down at all. He was like full price.
Yeah, we came out of there with some stuff. Not stuff that'll probably never be used.
Worth it.
But Pink, Panger. So like, we've been talking about this and like, we'll go do this or whatever. And Stefan and I feel like are much more realists of like, yeah, we can go do this, but like, it'll probably take a bit. And he's like, I have this for sure, locked down, 1 hour, no more needed, anything like that. And we're like,
oh, like to go catch some of these species?
like we're gonna get a blue cat over here for sure this big or something like that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, even with the ones that are like, let's say in our neck of the woods where I feel really confident I can catch one, it's you also like for smallmouth, for example, a 20-inch smallmouth. I'm like, yeah, you can go out and just in the fall, because that's when we're doing is end of October. I'm like, yeah, I can go out and catch that. But then you start thinking about it and you're like, sometimes it takes 5 hours to get like on the spot, right? Even on the lakes that you know really well. So, and sometimes you go and you don't catch them. I mean, I had FLW come up. Jody White came up to do some filming one time. And I think one of the lakes that you and Honor went to for chasing ghosts, right?
Yeah, maybe not. We could have been 10 hours away.
Well, the point being, like, I Jody White, I'm like, dude, come on, we're gonna go smash him, and it was just like it didn't happen. And the problem with this is if it doesn't happen on that day, you just threw a day out the window. And in reality, we got to catch 3 a day to do this in 10 days.
So then, like, we're also trying to basically make a list of lakes that we can do multiple of the species on.
Yeah.
To, like, you know, take advantage of your time. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, this is getting difficult, but we can maybe figure it out. I looked at Panger and I was like, we have to go to Fort Peck. Like, literally have to go to Fort Peck.
What state are you guys starting in?
So, our initial thought was to start in Upper Michigan because we felt like we could for sure knock out smallmouth and a bunch of the the trout species and salmon. And then at that point, we would come around. We would drive to like Green Bay, knock out some of the stuff down by Green Bay, like walleye and musky. I think we could knock out. Like musky is potentially the easiest one in my opinion. It needs to be in our neck of the woods. It needs to be 46 inches, which
doable
is a nice fish. But like you go to the right fishery, if you catch a musky, good chance it's over that. I mean, you go to a place like Green Bay, tons of fish over that. You go to a place like Vermilion, tons of fish over that. The problem is it's still musky, and you gotta, you gotta get one to bite. But I think that's a doable species. But the thought was then come around, hit up potential species in the Green Bay area, then drive to like Milwaukee, knock out a brown trout real fast in the harbors, and then jump on a plane from Milwaukee and go to where we need to go. And that's the part where like there's a lot of questions. But now, the more you start looking into it, the more it's like, okay, well, you got to take into account the bodies of water where you can catch multiple fish, or if not the same body of water, like can I like load the boat up and drive across the street onto another body of water that'll offer me another species. So then you start looking at places, like Adam just said, Fort Peck, right? There's a lot of research that indicates maybe there's some lakes over in like Idaho that we could knock out a bunch of fish. And so it's just going to come down to where you want to go. We haven't laid it all out yet on a map, but if you go as far out to Idaho, well, if you then want to go to say the James River to knock out a bunch of the catfish, well, that's a long flight from, that's a cross country flight basically. So if you were going to Idaho to catch perch,
I need so many batteries.
The logistics of this make me want to vomit, but I'm going to watch it.
Well, I mean, that's part of the enjoyment, right? Like I think the fishing, I kind of feel like the fishing's going to be secondary in this,
it'll be a grand adventure.
It's going to be a hell of a
alone,
ride. I know that I love this kind of stuff. This will be dope.
But one thing that fires me up, like just hearing Panger talk more and more about like how pumped he is for the multi-species and to knock him off the list. Like, obviously I know he's been a bass nut his whole life, but like, he is fired up, dude. I can hear it in his voice. I can hear it down here. And it's like, I don't know. I think it's going to be an amazing adventure just because you guys are sick for it. And it's going to be awesome.
I'm the same way in terms of like, I think about it and I get so excited. I get nervous. And then the reality hits in where I get like the fear of failure, right? Like I don't want to go and see that, dude. Total. Like I
can't wait for Panger to break off the musky. I can't
Oh,
wait for it.
That's the thing. It's like
I'll
it's
throw
gonna
'em out of
suck
the
to
boat.
be a part of, but to watch that, I'm gonna love it.
Or
You'd
like
be
you
like,
get your
"Oh,
first muskie in the
no."
8, and then it just doesn't eat, and you're like, it could have been done right there.
Yeah.
Like you could have knocked it out.
yeah,
right there.
hooks it, head shake, and it's off.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, you know, that's going to happen with so
Yeah.
many of them. Or let's say you catch a fish that's a 1/4 inch under, right? And you're like,
Oh,
Yeah. Oh my god.
it'll be really exciting. We want to try to figure out a way to like make it a fundraiser type thing. So I think one of the things we tossed around was doing I don't know if you guys had it. When I was younger in school, we had walkathons, and people would pledge like a quarter for every lap you walked. And then at the end of it, if you walked 10 laps, they'd give you 10 quarters. Right. So I could see doing something where like people pledge a certain amount for each Master Angler award we achieve.
oh, yeah,
That could be cool.
But I don't know. We have a lot of planning. We really haven't talked much in the last couple of weeks, just based on schedules and what was going on. And he decided
Tanger's on his summer northern tour. Right?
Yeah, he ditched out on iCast, so there wasn't any discussion there. And
he didn't even go to iCast. He was up
No.
slamming pike and walleye. Dang.
Yeah. He was what he called his own iCast. He was in a different
iCast.
location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does this sound sick? Does it have a name, or is that not out yet, or you don't have one yet?
I don't. I mean, as far as I know, there hasn't been a name discussed.
Okay.
I think
It'll come to you guys. I feel like
up
you
with
can't,
something while we're filming it. I'm sure.
on the first drive or the second drive. Yeah, I feel like you can't force it. That'll just come.
Yeah,
Is there like a significant energy drink sponsor to this? Because it sounds like there's going to need to be.
If you know one, we would definitely be willing to talk with them. No, that is one thing. Like, we are a little worried about. We would like to secure some funds from potential sponsors, because if we are flying, I mean, there could be potential that would be on like 3 flights per day, and if the 3 of us are on a flight, you're talking about,
we're talking like 5 to 10 grand of
rolling
airfare
out.
potentially.
Well, Panger was saying he might be able to get us a private jet, and I don't know if he was serious about that or not. But that would be cool, and that would really open us up to
that'd be all right.
I was gonna call our friend in Wisconsin for maybe a favor.
No kidding. Yeah.
Yeah,
Dude,
that's
yeah.
one fishing industry. But yeah, no, they're I'm excited for it. Like Matt said, for me it was like, especially filming wise, like if you get fired up about the idea and you're like, oh, I could film this so good, you just know, like, okay, yeah, I need to do this because it's going to be a sweet story. I want to dive into it and be a part of that. Because I don't know, you just feel like there's some ideas that are like big in the industry that everybody's going to get behind. And I'm like, this is definitely one of them. And I'm also aware that it's one of them because like 39 hours when it came out, you're like, oh, these guys are going to be dead. I'm like, they did a day and a half. Like, this is 10 days, man. This is going to be terrible. Yeah. Like, half of the footage in travel is going to be someone sleeping on a flight. It's going to be fantastic.
Damn. This is being filmed.
Just bring some Sharpie markers. We'll make it entertaining.
Yeah. Yeah. I like
It'll be good. It'll be really good. So out of all the species, what one are you most excited to catch?
Oh,
like,
man,
just shamelessly, like, what one are you most excited to target? And like, oh, I've always wanted to do that.
And then which one are you most nervous about?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I actually think the panfish, like the yellow perch, is potentially the toughest one because that's 15 inches. Like, that's a big perch.
It's a good perch.
Huge perch.
So that's one that, I mean, I'm kind of excited to catch. Like, I love perch, so that would be one that I would love to have in my hands. The ones that I'm kind of most excited to catch are generally more of the species I don't ever fish for. So like a lot of the trout species, like a big brook trout, which is
apparently
18 inches.
Apparently 18 inches.
Yeah,
it's pretty big, dude.
That's a big one. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, so maybe we'll fly up. Isn't there a lake up in like Ontario that's got giant ones where you got like backpack into
Yeah, I
them?
might need to call Weeb.
Yeah, he would know. So like that, it's really more of the species I don't get to fish for that much that I think I'd be more excited for. You know, I can't necessarily say I'm super excited to go after chain pickerel, which is one we had talked about, or even like northern pike, but I honestly would kind of like to catch a 34 or a common carp needs to be 34 inches long. Like that's a 25-pound carp. Like that would be fun to catch.
Yeah.
Yup.
Oh yeah. And especially if you're targeting them too, it's like
Yeah.
be electric.
The one I'm most nervous about is the largemouth because they're really big. And I know how hard those one will probably be to get.
Yeah.
What it's 6, it's gotta be 6P.
6P here or down there, it's a 10-pounder.
Well, it's gonna be 6.5 here. 22 inches or 6.5
That's
pounds.
huge, dude. That's
For
Yeah,
the
huge.
Midwest.
And you have to just be like, we're just gonna go run out and get it quick.
Yeah.
Well, we're kind of
Yeah.
talking. I kind of feel like that one needs to be left last.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
Like,
yeah.
because I don't feel that confident with that. I almost feel more confident catching a 24-incher than a 10-pounder. Like, so go to Florida. Like, I feel like a 24-incher is probably pushing like 8 pounds in Florida versus like 10 pounds. But that's one thing we still are trying to get clarification on. You know, Matt doesn't want to knock the sides off any fish, but I'm still under the I still want to win the challenge. So if we catch a 21.5-inch largemouth that goes 6.5 pounds, well, it qualifies through the poundage, but not as the catch and release length, because it's actually two different categories. You have a length.
Yeah,
which
it's
is
either
catch
the
and
weight or the
release,
length.
and
Are
the
you
weight
guys gonna
is
do
the
it
heat category.
where you could do either to make it potentially a
Well,
little bit
that's
easier?
what we're trying to get permission from In Fisherman, because the thing is, like, we could do it just to say we beat these, but we're actually submitting these and getting the Master Angler Award from In Fisherman. So right now they're looking into it, but it doesn't sound like if we catch a fish that it has the correct poundage, but it's not long enough, and we release it, that they're going to give us the award.
We got to
So
kill
you're-
it.
Harvest
means-
mission.
Yeah, we'll just feed the poor in the area. Them 10-pounders have lived a full life. Let's get rid of them. Yeah.
The steaks off a 10-pounder.
The steaks, dude.
Oh,
I mean, can you
God.
I
imagine?
personally hope we do it to the
the,
musky.
the flake is like the size of your hand.
Yeah, you flay a muskie, and I don't know if that would be good views or not, but we would.
The
get
views would be
absolutely
insane. The
we would
comment
get
section would be
destroyed.
horrid.
Oh my!
You could
God,
claim
dude.
insanity. These guys have been traveling for 10 days. They killed a muskie, dude. Let him
Thought it
get
was a
off
pike.
easy.
He's got it in his
Yeah.
carry-on. They're flying to Oklahoma. Like,
Oh, dude, Matt would mount it, dude. Matt would mount it.
so that was my question. Okay, so if you
Hank
guys
Rack could
somehow
mount it.
actually pull this off and catch all 27, are you getting replicas of all 27?
We need a sponsor for that because that's going to
That
be
would
even
be-
more expensive. That'd be like, dude, that's 20? Probably 20 grand in mounts, maybe
I don't
more.
even know. I don't even know. I mean,
It's like
that's-
$100 an
that's
inch
a hard
normally.
yes.
if we pulled it off, I mean, honestly, I feel like if we pulled it off, we would have some huge party somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
We would
Yeah.
throw some huge party.
We'd
Yeah.
have a St. Jude fundraiser, break your PB thing, but it would be
Yeah.
50 times as big.
Yeah, it
And it
would just be like,
liquor, no beer.
yeah. I think we worry about that after we do it. I think there'd probably be the 10 days would be followed by like 3 days in bed.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And then we'll worry about the blowout.
that sounds like a hell of a mission overall, but I'm pumped to see it. Damn.
I
So
knew
that'll-
you would like that one.
Is
Ben.
that going to probably come out in the spring then?
Yeah, I'll put
coming
it
in the
out
fall
after
and
the Chronicles. Yeah.
So is that going to come out? Is that be on your channel, Bart, or how is it? Do you know yet?
Yeah, I think my part, the whole cinematic part will be that vlog part, because then I think Matt had talked about he's going to do his daily YouTube videos still.
Oh,
and
so there's
he's
going to
gonna
be like
upload-
multiple outlets for this.
Yeah, so as we're going, he's going to upload and talk about how it's going on his channel, and then I believe Panger is going to be doing BTLs during the experience as well.
Yeah, that's the plan, is that we I have like some sort of quick update video type thing, maybe a few fish catches, straightforward. Here's how we're doing, guys, on my channel. Panger wants to have a live stream at the end of each day, probably while we're like stuffing food into our mouth, like at a Hardee's on the way to the next lake or something like that. And then
Or a quick trip. We'll make them
Yeah, quick trip.
While they're filleting trophy fish on the tailgate.
Yeah, and then there'd be a more finalized thing to come out on Bart's channel. I don't know, whenever you release that, whatever you'd be looking at.
Sweet.
But I mean, I think it would get some good exposure from that standpoint. And I mean, I honestly feel like it's got pretty, if we can pull this off, and I don't mean pull it off in terms of being successful with all the Master Angler Awards, but I do feel like
us all being in the actual same place at the same time doing it.
If we can pull it off and just have some solid content out of it, I feel like there's legs to have future type stuff as well come out of it.
Totally.
Dude, 10 days just swinging, there's going to be good content out of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, by day 4, it'll be just like a Chronicle trip, Pink. So one of us will be trying to kill the other. That'll be pissed that they slept through their alarm. The other
Dude,
just
you
wants
you
food.
said your channel wasn't about the drama, but it's about to be.
Why is Panger not on the live stream tonight? Well,
we're gonna like pull up to the first spot, some rock hump or something for some fall smallies, and both fire out, and you're gonna light up the biggest school of giant smallies you've ever seen. Catch the first one. It's gonna go 20.5 inches, and we're gonna look at each other and be like, now we gotta leave. Like, we're sitting here getting ready to catch a 30-pound bag of smallmouth, but we're just gonna leave because now we gotta go catch a walleye or something dumb like that.
chain pickerel.
It's just part of the game. Part of the game.
Wow.
That will be the intriguing part, Pink. Will be like having flight scheduled and stuff's gonna be tough because say you even get to a place and you're like, all right, we have allotted 8 hours to be here.
Mm-hmm.
Well, say you catch it immediately.
Right.
You still have 7 hours.
Right, but you can't just do nothing.
Yeah, so you need to leave.
Yeah.
Or all of a sudden you're at 7 hours and you're like, dude, we got to get to this flight. And it's
you gotta leave. You just gotta get on a flight and go. You gotta leave.
Yeah.
There's gonna be a level
The
of pulling
travel
the plug.
aspect is gonna be so good of this.
There's gonna be
I can see it already.
more travel than fishing.
Oh yeah.
Like there really will
People
be.
eat that up, dude.
And then all of a sudden, all the airplane
going to the
servers are going to crash while we're in the middle of it too, and we're going to be stuck in I don't know, some airport in Charleston.
Did you get stuck in Orlando?
No, I got out a few hours before somehow. I got lucky.
Did you leave Thursday?
Yes.
Oh, that's why. Yeah,
Did
dude,
you get
there were
stuck,
people.
Matt?
No, well, not really. I mean, I got delayed a little bit, but my wife was down there with me, and we were there. We had planned to come out Saturday morning, so it kind of was better. Plus, we flew like the crummiest, cheapest airline you could, and I've heard a lot of the small airlines were not nearly as affected because they have outdated software.
Nice.
You're just
we're
get
not
on if
hitting
you want.
and not hitting the upgrade now button paid off for them.
Yeah, we flew a Velo. If you've ever heard of a Velo, they now fly from CWA, which is Mosinee, Wisconsin, Wausau. They fly direct to Orlando.
Wausau had an airport.
Really? They have a direct flight to Orlando from Mosinee.
Yeah, they just started it this year. It's only Wednesday morning. Leaves Wednesday morning, comes back Saturday morning, which kind of worked pretty
perfect.
good.
Yeah.
That's convenient.
But I also heard they're canceling it because there's not enough people using it.
There's that.
How many people were on your flight?
I don't know. It was a pretty cool flight. It was actually, I didn't know that they could have planes that big take off from there, because every time I've flown out of it, it's always been one of those planes where you have one seat on one side and two on the other. And this was a 3-seater on both sides. And I got to tell you, they really hammered it to get up off that runway.
Landing had to have been special.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it worked. We got there. All right.
Yeah. No, I got back just in time. I will say, I'd imagine you agree with me on this. Orlando Airport has to have the absolute worst security system out of anywhere I have ever been, just to like get through.
They made
it's just a mob. There's no lines.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. They gave, I had a giant bag of core tackle stuff in my backpack, which going a Wisconsin airport's like, oh, cool. What baits you got? Where are you going fishing? Right. You're fine with it. And the Orlando one, I've had this happen several times in Orlando now, where they take it apart, go through everything. They got to go talk to their boss. Like, I mean, it's a pain in the butt that, apparently you're going to use a couple of fish hooks to, take over the plane, but they're not super happy with it. But so they gave me a hard time with that. And then they made me throw out my toothpaste, which was like a full size tube instead of the 3 ounce or whatever.
That's on you, dude.
Yeah, that's on you. That's been like that ever since 9/11.
I know, but I got down there with it.
But I got through Moseny.
Yeah, Moseny didn't catch it. They're on top.
Probably don't even know 9/11 happened.
Oh my God, that's funny.
Yeah, but no, that'll be happening in the fall. That'll be super interesting. So I did want to ask you too, Matt, because Sobi's fishing the Champions Tour up here. I know have you fished one of the events, or you've just seen them?
No, I fished. There was one year I fished the full series.
You did?
Yeah,
okay.
It was I don't know, probably 3 years ago, 2-3 years ago. It wasn't too long ago.
Gotcha. And then you're now doing the BPTs. What have you thought of the whole switch over to like the every fish counts and difference there? Kind of I think the every fish having, I mean, I just film it, but I think it's way more mental than anything else. But I'd be curious your thought on the format difference.
Well, as an angler, I love it. Like I think it is the most enjoyable, entertaining format as an angler that that we can fish, just because you constantly know where you're at. You constantly, like, every fish matters. You're, even when I'm having a bad tournament, you're sitting in, so we do it by groups. So if there's 40 guys fishing a group and I'm sitting there in 35th, it's like, okay, what's 1 2-pounder do? 1 2-pounder jumps me up to 33rd, right? So you constantly know where you're at. And I agree with you. I think it's much more mentally challenging to fish that format, which for me, I like. I mean, I feel like I've worked hard to develop my mental game, like worked with like meditation coaches and things like that. So I feel very strong with it. My biggest issue as an angler with the format, and I'm not having a good year by any means for myself. And I really feel like it comes down to my fishing style. Like, I've always been really good at trying to identify locations and fish that are, I don't want to call them, by themselves, but more like loner type stuff. Like, looking for isolated cover where, a fish lives and hasn't been pressured for years, which a lot of times I feel like are better quality fish, but you don't get the number of bites that you need to compete in a total weight format. These guys that I'm fishing against are phenomenal at finding the biggest populations of fish in a lake. And I've always kind of really prided myself on finding fish other people haven't found. But the reason they haven't found them is because they're not big populations of fish. So it's been an adjustment for me from that standpoint. Like, when I get around them, I mean, I feel like I can catch them. I mean, but it's definitely been a little bit of a learning curve from a fish management standpoint more than anything. I'm right now, MLF's having a big cut for next year. They're cutting,
Mhm.
20 guys of the 80 guy field are getting cut. And the rookie class is kind of in a more difficult situation because they're selecting the 60 guys to move forward based on 45 of those guys are being chosen based on career angler of the year average. And if they've fished 3 years or more consecutively, for every 3 years they fish, they get to drop their worst year. So if an angler's been there since the inception of the BPT, that's 6 years, they get to drop their two worst years, which really can raise their lifetime
Yeah.
average up. And their MLF is choosing not to allow the rookies this year to have a 1 year average, meaning my 1 year, if I finished 40th, that technically, in my opinion, is a 1 year average, and that would put me inside the 45 highest angler average, most likely. But because I can't do that, I have to qualify then in the top 15 of the remaining 35 guys that are in the field. And right now, I'm 15th out of that 35. So I'm the last man in from a qualifying standpoint for next year, which means going to the St. Lawrence River. I have to catch them. I have to have a good tournament to stay in that grouping, which, I feel confident I can do. I would bet on myself just from
Mhm.
that standpoint, but it's not a position that I necessarily relish right now, right? Like, I think I'm 52nd maybe in points. So it's not like it's not a year I'm satisfied with, but it's also slightly worse than, middle of the pack for an 80-man field. But, so it's a little humbling to think I could get cut and delegate it back down to, the opens or invitationals or whatever. But I can't necessarily sit here and say I feel like my performance is based on switching entirely to a total weight format from a 5 fish. It's just, I honestly feel like I've had a decent year when I think about it. I've just had a ton of lost fish, and in this format, lost fish will kill you even more than in a 5 fish format. So, it is what it is right now. I mean, I just got to go catch them at the next one. But I will say, like, I really am thankful that I did fish the Champions Tour for that 1 year, because it gave me a good insight into like the approach and like what you're looking for. The one thing that's different though is that's a 1 day tournament versus a
Mhm.
multi-day tournament.
Totally.
Yeah, whereas these guys are burning everything to the ground for a day, and you're like, well,
Yeah.
how long can I burn this down?
Yeah, it's like how many fish actually live here? And the one thing I feel like I've kind of starting to learn at this point is you just got to cover a ton of water, and you're trying to come in contact with as many active fish as you can. Whether you have schools found or not, you just need to cover. If you think you're going to sit there and try to milk an extra bite, you're probably falling behind somebody that's running water and generating 2 bites for that one you're going to get.
Yeah, like before you got here, we were chatting a little bit about Champions Tour stuff, and Sobi and I were saying Brad Leitner had told me one of the things that taught him most was when he got to the opens and everything is how much better it makes you at time management, even in a 5 fish derby. Just how much quicker you are to notice, like, I just need to get out of here. Like, yeah, maybe I'll milk another bite out, but I have a way better chance at just going somewhere else and catching one right now.
Yeah, and
Like that.
yeah, it's it's funny though, because like I am more hesitant now to move spots in a multi-fish derby than a 5 fish, because when you're moving and making that run, the whole time you're like, I'm driving, and that scoreboard is just like ding 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 ding, and you're like, son of a gun. So it's there's a, like you said, it's a mentally different format, and I just think it's a blast. I really feel like from an angler standpoint, like it's just an absolute blast to fish. But the biggest issue I think they have from a fan standpoint is it doesn't relate over to the fans nearly as well. you know, as an angler, we're enjoying the whole process. And for me, you know, if I finish, you know, 17th instead of 16th, that one spot makes a big difference. But the fans are watching it going, well, who's going to win the tournament? Or maybe they're looking at like the last cut spot, right, to see who gets in. But it's not, it just has a different feel for the fans. And for Major League Fishing, at least, I feel like they need to figure out how to relate the excitement level that the anglers feel over to the fans to get them feeling the same excitement level.
I gotcha.
I think it's here to stay. I think there's a place for it. I really do. Like, I think
you
it's
see it even just up here with Champions Tour. It's the biggest, best thing that's up here.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it comes down to, though, that like you got to have, it's a harder tournament format to run. So you got to have people that are really well dedicated to it. And the Champions Tour has probably some of the best people behind it in order to make it, you know, to get it to going in the direction it is. Cause, you know, you start talking about having to have marshals and, you know, people to weigh the fish and scales. And it's not just like set up a weigh table, tell people to go in the morning and weigh them in the afternoon. There's a lot more that goes into it. But if you can run it right, like the Champions Tour, you know, you really can, I think, excel. Because I think, again, the anglers do it and they feel, you know, especially at a local level, you feel like it's just I don't know, you're being treated like in a professional angler, right? You got somebody in your boat who's weighing your fish for you, and it's just a kind of a neat format.
Well, sweet. Sobi, you got anything else?
I don't think so. We just want to say thank you so much, Matt, for coming on here. And anybody who wants to follow Matt, follow him on Instagram, Matt Stefan Fishing. Follow him on YouTube, Matt Stefan Fishing. Follow him on all his socials. Like he said, he posts every single day, and he's got a lot in the works. Everything from obviously the rest of the PBT to their fall series to core tackle to all the media he's pumping out. So Matt was originally a guest speaker for Ryan, Cody Honor, and I way back in the day when we were at UWSP, and we've been following your career ever since. So we got to say we were big fans then, and we're still big fans now. So thank you.
You know, that's the only time UWSP has asked me to come talk.
Really? That's because we were the best. We were the best.
Which is funny. I mean, I've had like every like high school in the area at this point. You know, I don't have it now, but I have so many different sweatshirts that I talk about. And the UWSP team is since you guys all graduated, it's been quiet.
It just went downhill.
That's so crazy. That
the UWSP fishing / drinking team.
And like local. I don't know why they wouldn't.
They keep having the what is it? The Wapaka Chain Spring Open. It's like an alumni tournament. And I'm like, I keep wanting to go back and just roll that just to show who's still in the area. And like I think they do it.
Guess what? You never show.
They always schedule it when I'm at a tournament. So from that standpoint, I think they do it on purpose.
Dang. I don't know about that.
No, that was
Ryan
fun.
Was there this year.
Yeah, I go almost every year.
Do you for the alumni one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, tell them to schedule it.
That's why I know you weren't there, because I was there.
I told you I haven't been. I would go gladly. You know, that's one of those things where like I'm still jealous you guys had a fishing team, because I graduated the high school I went to in Illinois had a fishing team. I think they started it the year or two after I left, and it was the first school in Illinois to have a fishing team. Like they helped start the whole thing. I think Illinois was actually the first one that had it as like a sanctioned sport in the state. But so then I go to UWSP and, you know, fish most of my grades away and like graduate, and like 2 years later, you know, you guys all show up basically and start a program. And I'm like, man, I was like a couple of years late on all high school and college fishing. So I want to know your take on that though. Like, what do you guys think from a college standpoint? Do you think it's positive? Do you think it's negative? Because there's a really big mixed perception about like high school and college fishing. I'd be curious to hear what you guys have to say.
Like as far as what? Like
you think it's good as a whole, or do you think there's a lot of I don't know, misguidance that comes out of it?
I think it's changed a lot since we were there.
Changed. So, like, it was like the Wild West when we were there, because like there was no adult supervision. You know what I mean? You were the only adult that ever walked in that room for a meeting.
Yeah,
they went out.
Other than that,
they went out in 6
right. And now there's like
it was the blind leading the blind.
Coaches and like gear that works. Like it's different.
Yeah, it is. It's totally different now than like what it was.
I would say, I think so on the I think a lot of it originates at the high school level. I think high school fishing is good, like getting kids into fishing and everything. But I think there's way too much ease of access almost to a level with the higher end tournaments. Mm-hmm. Like I know Minnesota's starting to have conferences and divisions to like qualify for the state tournament, and then you move on to the other. But like I don't know, Panger's talked about on BTL, and I share the same view. And we have some tournaments in Minnesota that are way too big, in my opinion, that I've talked about before. But when you're shoving 150 to 250 or 400 kids on a body of water, you are not teaching them anything at all.
I would say
there needs to be qualification processes then to get to a level where it's 100 or 150 boat field. Cause like even I know Stefan, you fished Toyota series or open stuff like that before. And I've fished a handful now. You fish those tournaments way different than you fish a 50 or 100 boat tournament, which is what your local high end is, or the elite series or the BPT. That's what the level of that field is. But these qualification tournaments, the opens and the Toyotas, are so much bigger. You fish those completely different because there's so many people out there. And there's no way there should be that many teams of kids out there or more, because you're just not. Like, dude, in those tournaments, I'm praying for 5 bites most of the time. And I am just like, there are boats everywhere. Maybe someone hasn't hit that lily pad. I don't know. Like, I'm just scrambling. So that's kind of my thoughts there. I think the college is really good.
I think the college thing is good, but I think like when we were there, like Sam, I think you can speak to this, like specifically about Point, right? It was like, there, even then, like Point, we got like barely any money from the school. Yeah. You know what I mean? But there were other teams that definitely were pretty well funded at that time. And I think we were good then because like within our team, we like qualifying was not easy. Like our club tournaments were like tough, dude. Like, and we were only sending like 2 guys to like some of these national tournaments. Whereas like other schools like McKendree, you know, you'd show up there, they had like 20 boats in every tournament.
Yeah.
Like it seemed like they were just sending whoever. So it was like, I think the competition level, at least like in our world, was really, really high just to even be able to go to some of these bigger tournaments. So then when you went there, it was like, I don't know. It felt more like serious. Like we're, you know, we want to do good.
You're representing the school then. Yeah. You're kind of representing your
right.
team.
It wasn't like we're all just going to go because it's an open tournament. Like we only were sending a couple guys. So I think from that aspect, it was good. Broke. Well, exactly. But like I'm saying, at least when we were doing it, there was only a handful of schools that had a bunch of money. You know, it was like, I don't even remember all of them, but it's like, you know, they actually had like equipment, like boats and stuff that were being supplied as part of the thing. And, you know, we're all running like dusty 17 footers, like just trying to get anywhere, you know?
Well, I honestly, I don't even know how the college kids do it. I mean, I think back to, I mean, I could barely, I didn't have a car until my junior year. And then like, I could barely afford that. And it's like, you know, my buddy, Jason Correo at the time, who turned into, you know, we became team partners for years. You know, he had literally a 14-foot flat bottom with a 20-horse Johnson on it. And the only way we'd get that thing to start was he'd take the cowling off, hand wrap the motor. And actually he'd literally like hit the top of the flywheel with like, it wasn't a hammer, but I mean, it was like a metal rod and then he'd start it. And if it didn't start, it was a pain in the ass because then he'd have to hand wrap it. I mean, it was just it was a constant fight with that boat, but it was the only boat. I mean, it was his boat, and it was the only way we could get out on the water. And then we fished, a handful of tournaments with that, just using coolers, and it was like I see the stuff kids have now, and I'm like, I just don't get it. Like I don't
know.
I know it is
because that's how it used
Adam
to be.
And I remember too. We fished. How many tournaments we fished? We only used coolers back in the day.
We won our first 3 Wednesday nighters out of a Lund that had just like a Coleman cooler with a aerator we bought at Gander Mountain that we had to change the batteries at every tournament.
And they never lasted. There's some beauty in that too, and that's kind of like the starting point. I feel like of how you should kind of get into it. But like you said, Matt, it's like I don't know how they're doing it now. I don't know how.
No, and I guess so. That would be my only thing in college, and like. I mean, it even flexes into the opens, I guess, because you get to these opens now, and I'm just like, I don't know. Like, all these kids are so young, and I have no idea how they have the money or whatever to do this. And I mean, it's fine if people come from families with money. That's cool. I mean, people get that. But it seems like the sport, in some level, is taking a turn towards favoring if you have the money or funding. And you see that even in college. And I think that's where that comes from compared to those original Wild West days. Yeah. It was, 8 college dudes sleeping in some shitty motel.
Or the front deck of your boat. Or the
5
dudes in a 2-person tent, like all the time.
Yeah, Pink slept under the Clinton Street Bridge in La Crosse once.
That's scary, dude.
Well, we had a lot of beer. So
were you in the boat? Were you in the boat or on the rocks?
I was in the bed of the truck. Hunter was in the boat, and Kaysen, I think, was in his boat. We had a little squad. It was good.
There you go.
Yeah.
Safety in numbers.
You're fine. The homeless people kept all the other stuff from going on. It was fine.
Yeah. I mean, it's changing. I don't know that it's good or bad, I guess. I mean, you definitely are seeing kids come out of college that are extremely well-rounded anglers, so like
I think you're seeing the sports getting younger, and it's not like I was just even noticing this year in Minnesota with the Bass Nation Team Trail and with the Champions Tour. It's not just the Opens and the Elite Series. Like our local tournaments are starting to get taken over by, like for a while, it was like me and Teal and Chapman and, these handful of guys that were in their 20s, but there wasn't that many others. Well, now it's like kind of that same crew, but then there's all these super young guys, and you're looking at all these photos and you're like, man, it's just getting younger and younger that are taking the checks. And I'm 30 and I'm like, am I getting old? Like, am I old out here now? Like, what is going on?
Yeah, I do think, though, like, there's a lot of guys that fish college that aren't going to go pro, obviously. And it's like, I still think there's a really good spot for people to, like, grow as anglers and just get better, though. Like, those clubs are good. They're competitive. Like, it makes you learn. Like, you have to learn fast if you want to compete, even at, like, a club-level college tournament. So, I don't know. I think it's good because it gets you that competitiveness without maybe fishing like a bigger like series or something, kind of like right out the gate. At least that's how I felt about it. And then maybe you have some success and you start going to more like regional stuff. So
I just feel like there's so many more tournaments now too, right? When you guys did it back in the day, there was like 4 or 5?
Well, there was like Madison would hold some like invitationals, but other than that, it was either like FLW at that time. It was like ACA, and then the Bassmaster stuff.
And they each had maybe 3 or 4 tournaments in their circuit. Well, and you could only fish the one in your region other than the wild card one.
Right. Yep. Right. Yeah. So it was like you had a couple shots at it. And then if you had the funds and time to do a wild card, you could do that.
And I think that's where the difference is now, Matt, is you have guys in college who are doing a whole like they're making a whole professional tour of the college tour. They're fishing 9-10 tournaments. That's also where I
Wow.
look at it. And I remember being in college being like, how are you getting the schoolwork done?
Yeah.
Like,
well, right.
I don't
Just alone.
understand any of
Yeah.
this.
And like for us, I think when we did it, like I want to say like we maybe like per semester maybe got like $3,000 from the school for the whole team.
Yeah.
So it was like that's not a lot of money to do anything with. So it was like, you know, we were doing that's why we'd have to qualify within our team to be like we're going to send 2 teams to Dardanelle for that, you know, thing or whatever. It's like, okay, so you had to kind of like pick and choose where you were going to go unless you somehow like I don't know, made enough money at Bill's Pizza to like go, you know, like get enough gas money to drive down there. It was like, I don't know what to do. So
They're the only one that delivers to my house out here in the sticks.
yeah, that was the job when I knew I didn't want to work in a restaurant anymore.
One
Shout
thing,
out Bill's Pizza though, you know.
one thing I think that's completely different. We're not going to jump down this rabbit hole too. Is it like when we were in college, it seemed like if you could just make it to the tournament, you were good. Then you could put your skills against anybody because this is before even mapping was that great. Obviously we had side imaging, but like there was no FFS and stuff like that. It just seemed like once you made it down to Kentucky Lake early in the spring, it's like, I don't care if they're locals, dude. It's like, we'll figure something out. We'll follow seasonal patterns. We'll find the warm water. We'll break it down. And I feel like we have, you know, if we put in our time in 2.5, 3 days, we have as good in a shot as anybody. It doesn't matter if you had a big boat or not, like you're still floating just like everybody else. But now I feel like there's definitely, you know, if kids got pretty tricked out boats and, you know, wicked electronics versus maybe somebody coming from Wisconsin who's just got their 17-foot bass tracker, they're definitely at a disadvantage if they go down to like a Kentucky Lake and, you know, they're trying to take on bait chasers. It's just different.
Did feel more like skills versus skills when we were in it though.
100p.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was, I don't know, maybe more of a level playing field overall, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll see where it goes.
Yeah, we'll see where it goes. My only conclusion from all of it is stop having 200 to 400 boat high school tournaments, please. Not teaching the kids anything other than to slide into pros DMs, try to get a waypoint. And then in practice, all they do is see a bunch of people on a point, and they're like, well, there's probably fish there. And then they go there.
It's usually not the kid that slides into the DMs. It's the parents.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot of that.
Interesting.
And that's one of my issues with high school. It's like I feel like the high school guys are so, you know, they've got their boat captain and they've got, you know, I think there's a big advantage for kids that have access to, you know, people that do fish a lot of tournaments. Because in high school, there's a lot of people that are doing it just because they want to do it. It's fun. It's a good reason for them to go fishing. They do not have the same drive to like win the tournament. They're there for fun. But then you've got like some kids that have, you know, parents that are out there getting all the information they can. They have, you know, a boat captain that's maybe taking them to fish, maybe telling them how to, you know, I agree with you. I think the high school is a great place to introduce people to it, but it's I just feel like 400 boats is not a good thing for the lake. And it's not a good thing probably for the kids too.
Yeah. Like I've talked to a couple people in our local Minnesota region for like, they've just asked for input on what I thought would be kind of the best format for the high school stuff. And what I think would be the best is I said, treat it like you do high school sports with conferences and sections or whatever you want it to be. Because what it should be is like what Sobi and I did when we were young. We fish Wednesday nighters around our area because there wasn't really any high school stuff going on. Yeah. But you go fish a 15 or 20 boat derby on this lake, on a smaller lake that can take it. And you can practice in your little Lund or your little 14-foot, you know, tiller, flat bottom, and you can go practice and find your own fish and like learn patterns and do the whole thing. And then if you finish in the top 2 or 3 of one of those events, or maybe it's a couple events, then you qualify for a championship that's 100 boats on this big lake.
Or even sections, you know what I mean? Then you go to sections, and then after sections, you go to state.
And there's a process, not just this madhouse of 200 or 100,
Yeah.
200, 400 people signing up for this state tournament. And then everybody's just calling the guys who fish there, trying to get waypoints and stuff. And they're not really learning anything. And also, like, the kids, I don't really feel like you feel that much satisfaction or whatever of learning patterns or doing any of that stuff. Like, I remember when Sobi and I fished our first state tournament on Gull, we had a boat captain, but we drove up with my Lund 16-footer, and we knew we couldn't really practice on the main lakes. So we went to the North Lakes and we practiced up there for 2 days, found our own fish. We were super psyched about it. Looked at the guy and we're like, yeah, we're going up to Upper Gull, Margaret, and Nisswa. And we went up there and we caught some fish and came back, didn't win, but we were like, hey, we had a shot, we did it.
And that was kind of like, at least our, like, back, when we were going to college too, Ryan, and even before then in high school, like, that was always kind of the mentality. Like, if we saw like teams that had coaches and stuff, that always just seemed so bogus and so not bogus as unfair. It just meant like, that would suck if like someone was trying to tell us where to go, what to do. Like, no, we're
we're like walking out to the truck to go get like more booze, and we're like, their coach is like, they're having a meeting.
We're
just
like talking to him, losers out the lake. Yeah, we're just like, what an idiot. Just go find some fish and tear it down.
Well, but we were doing like anything because none of us had money. So it was like, even when we had like tournaments on like the Point Flowage or whatever, you'd like drive in your car to like Redbridge to be like, are they on beds? Like looking from shore, but like, I don't know. It's just different. But I do agree with you, Bart, that it's like, I think people should cut their teeth on like smaller bodies of water, smaller tournaments, and then like move up to these like bigger fisheries. I think that's like the right way.
Because I mean, dude, and like, those bigger fisheries are hard. These kids, like, dude, I suck on Tonka half the time. These kids are not learning anything trying to figure out Tonka for a 150 boat tournament. Right. It's so hard.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my thoughts on it, Matt. If that's a little bit of the tangent you wanted to go on. I mean, that's my
hey, you guys have experienced it. I mean, I have, like I said, I'm mixed on the whole idea of it. Probably a little jealous of the fact that I didn't get to partake in it. But, I think more than any aspect of the sport, that's an area that needs to be really figured out. Like, I think there needs to be some adjustments made, because it's a great time to introduce people to the sport. But I think it's also a really good time to scare people away from the sport. So, there's probably a better way to hone it in to get people to really just enjoy that aspect of the sport, whether it's high school or college. And there's probably a good way to still funnel the best kids up to the top, and at the same time do it in a manner that's best for the fishery.
I think that's the biggest thing for people to remember, because fisheries get trampled.
I mean, that's always one of our biggest concerns. And I know from a pro perspective, we're always, guilty of just looking at it from our viewpoint. It's our job, it's our profession. Why are other people out on the lake? But it's really frustrating when there's a 400 boat high school tournament on the lake the same time we're out there fishing for our livelihood, because we're supposed to be stewards of the sport. And the problem is, if there's 400 boat high school tournaments, which is not unheard of, especially, like if you're down in Texas, and this happened to us when we were down there last year at Rayburn. Like, there's no place to go. So no matter where you go, you're kind of like cutting somebody off. And the last thing I want to do is be cutting somebody off. So I found myself fishing new water because I couldn't fish the stuff I wanted to fish. And again, I'm not saying that they shouldn't be allowed on the lake, but I question 400 boats. Like,
there has to be some qualifying and planning process. I feel that. I went and fished my first pro level tournament this year, that Invitational in Kentucky. And there was a 250 boat college derby. I was fishing the MLF one, and then there was a Bassmaster one the 2 days before. And I'm like, come on. Like,
Yeah.
it's
we're
and
all the same pool here. I get we're competing, but this is stupid.
and that's
Like,
part of
this
it too.
sucks.
There's so much pressure on these lakes now that, even if it's not a high school or college tournament, there's a giant local tournament the weekend before, or the weekend after, and the 6 weekends before, right? And it's like the lakes just don't get the ability to really kind of relax and get time to recover from all the pressure, to the point where sometimes I feel like the best pattern you can fish a lot of times are release fish. I mean, there's a lot of guys that have won tournaments. If I look at my schedule this year, there have been a couple of tournaments won on guys fishing release fish.
Wow.
And it's like, you're not even, you're not fishing the pattern or the lake at that point.
Yeah.
You're just fishing the area that's been stocked. And that's a function of there being a tournament 5 days a week out of, that ramp. So I don't have the answer. I wasn't really looking to go down some crazy path in terms of, what's the best way to run tournaments, but there's definitely a lot of pressure on a lot of lakes right now. You mentioned the point flowage gets absolutely pounded right now. I mean, there's a Tuesday nighter, there's a Wednesday nighter, there's a rotating Thursday, you've got tournaments every other weekend, and it's
which is crazy because it's not that big of a place.
No, well, it's tiny, especially now that the majority of the largemouth are gone too. So from that standpoint, I would say 95% a smallmouth fishery, and it just gets pounded on. Every fish I catch has got 3 hook marks in its mouth, and you feel bad for the fish.
Yeah.
Damn. Dang.
Yeah. Feel that. Well, I guess I would, unless anybody else has got anything else to say, Matt, I think we appreciate you swinging by. Thanks for
thank you so much. Thank you.
answering my text. I'm sure we'll have you back on at some point.
Heck
Maybe
yeah,
with
dude.
Connor, and then it'll probably get pretty off the rails at that point. But
yeah, for sure.
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm a big fan of all of yours. Keep doing what you're doing, and I'm sure we'll cross paths a handful of times here in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, we'll wrangle Panger down one of these days to figure out when we're going to catch all these master anglers.
Yeah, we got to have you guys on before you guys shoot that this fall, so we can at least get the pregame breakdown.
Yeah, and the realist how big of a disaster it'll be, but it's going to be awesome.
Can we?
It's going to be a shit show.
Can we reserve rights to do post-game interview? Like, I'm talking, if you
we'll
guys
do a
get off the
post-game
10-day bender
immediate podcast that we won't release.
Or if you need 3 days in bed, whatever. I don't want you to shoot another podcast until all 3 of you guys jump on here.
Yeah, uncensored. Awesome. Like, we just give our full thoughts. No, like having to be sponsor related.
I mean, you guys aren't that far away. Maybe what we'll do is just like have you guys join for a few of the legs where you can be like the commentators to sit in the boat and just do like straight up commentary.
That's it. We're bringing the trag boat and
they're like behind us. Ryan's making some food and we're talking about it.
Yeah, you can do play by play. You can be the announcer sitting in the front.
I like this. I like this.
It's very obvious Matt Pangrack hasn't slept in 3.5 days.
Did you see Stefan set the hook on that fish? That fish came off midair because he set it like a girl.
Remember when they said it would take 2 hours to catch a 10-inch bluegill? We are on hour 6.
Let the chirping begin. And we'll be like right next to you, so you'll hear everything.
Illinois
native. I think that would be hysterical. That's like a whole YouTube thing right there. You could just commentate on, join people in their fishing trip and just commentate.
We've talked about commentating the Bassmaster Classic one year, like as bar viewers.
Yeah, like Isn't it Mystery Science Theater 3000 or whatever it's called, where they just watch old movies and commentate on it?
Yeah. Something
you guys
like
are
that,
probably
where we
too
just
young for that.
Well, it'd be something where we just watch it and we're just like, why is he fishing that, Doc?
We should we should pirate the live and then we just commentate.
Yeah, exactly.
I think we should. We will. I think on the next one.
That'll be great. But thank you for swinging by, Matt. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
And
make sure you guys go follow Matt Stefan Fishing, and good luck. Seriously, good luck the rest of the year. We're rooting for you at St. Lawrence.
yeah, go
Thanks,
catch
guys.
them.
I appreciate it.
All right. See you, dude.
Thanks, Matt.
See you.
See it.
All right. That was time with Matt Stefan. Always
That was good.
entertaining.
Yeah, that was
God,
good.
dude.
We talked about a lot of stuff. We covered a lot
Mhm.
of bases. It was good conversation. Any podcast that Matt has been on, and it's been a lot of BTLs, like conversation always is so good.
He's so thorough, and like his
Yeah.
brain just works in certain ways. I like that
Yeah.
high school topic too, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. That's good.
And you guys, you do need to go and listen to some of the podcasts he's done on BTL, because like what he's done with a meditation coach and a mental coach, it's like
Yes.
so interesting, dude. Like I've listened to him on podcasts, and they've been some of the most interesting podcasts I've ever listened to. So yeah, definitely just start Googling his name around and see the stuff.
There also is a late night BTL he did with, it was him, Panger, I want to say Polinick, and
Ooh.
Miles Berghoff.
I didn't hear.
And
that.
they did like, it was like a spooky stories from the road, basically, where Polinick talked about he thinks he found an alien spaceship on side imaging on Lake Ontario. Miles saw something, and Stefan has definitely seen Bigfoot. He talks about it very detailed in there. But yeah, that's a really good listen if you want to go down the wormhole.
I have heard that one, by the way. That's a really good listen, dude. Polnick says he opens his bail and it shoots down and it doesn't stop.
Yeah,
That, like,
and he said he dropped a camera down in it, and you can see down hallways, and there's like doors and windows and everything. And he's like, "Yeah, it's wild,
freaky.
Good stuff." But all right, we can get back to. I mean, we're running long right now, but we can just talk about, I guess, the rest of what's been going on with everything, right, Pink, and then just move on.
Yeah, if you want to just fill us in, maybe give us a little Bassin story, maybe. I mean, we have a weigh-in, but we can always get rid of it. I mean,
Yeah, we can do it another time. I think
it's all
might as
good.
well save it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously I've been gone for 2 months. We did the Champions Tour stuff. Sorry, I'm literally scrolling through my calendar right now to remember where I've been. But yeah, the Bassmaster Open. So yeah, went out to St. Clair for the Bassmaster Open. That was super cool. It was really fun to be back fishing big bass stuff, I would say. And yeah, so got out there. It ended up being right after the 4th of July, and I drove out on the 5th, I think it would be. Got there, settled in, stayed with Pangrak, Upshaw, and Blake, and a couple other guys. And when we got so when I got set up there, it was really nice because you guys both went on a bathroom break at the same time. So all of a sudden I was talking to nobody. That was like normally when one guy leaves, it's really nice. But like all of a sudden I was talking to nobody, and I'm like, nobody's had to do this before. Just going off the cuff.
I committed to leaving because I literally reached for my earbuds and I saw Sam leave, and I was like, no, I'm not going.
Yeah, no, you both left, and I was like, I guess I'll start this story talking to a fucking brick wall right now.
Don't you forget for a second, if Ryan and I leave, you are not alone.
Yeah, no, I know.
PTB
Nation. I was talking to the nation.
PTB
don't worry.
Nation.
So I got out. I got to St. Clair, and dude. So you guys will like this.
Abandoned him.
So I'm all psyched. I'm like, all right, I'm fishing bass again. I can't wait.
Sorry, I just gotta laugh. All right, Bart, let's hear a bass story.
Yeah, just fucking gone immediately. Thanks, dickheads.
All right, continue.
No, so I get to St. Clair, and the first thing, it maybe sounds painfully obvious, but dude, that water is as blue as every live video you have ever seen of
like
it.
It's legit. It looks like
you look at it and you're like, what the hell? It is just wild.
Why? Did you ever look up?
I don't know, man. It is crazy. And there's certain parts of it that you get to that like you almost get vertigo. Because it's such a weird color with the sky, and but anyway, so I get there on July 5th, and obviously it's July 4th weekend, And I'm like, okay, launch my boat out at the park there where literally like it's a 500 boat launch. And back, dude, it's like 14 lanes. It's
Wow.
huge. And launch, go out into Anchor Bay, and I'm like, all right, here we go. Like it goes down here or over in Canada. Like this is where it happens. And I go out, start scoping for 10 minutes. And I'm in like 4-footers that are yacht waves. There's no wind, not a lick of wind. And I immediately go cast a drop shot at one I see floating, and a wave catches me off guard. I go back to cast, and my drop shot wake pegs my apex, shattered screen.
On day one?
10 minutes in. 10 minutes in. I posted it on Instagram.
I saw it, but I didn't know it happened day one, let alone 10 minutes
Day one,
in.
10 minutes in, man. Yeah, no, it's still like that.
Were you not even like mad? Were you just like, oh
no,
okay.
he had to have been mad.
Here's the thing. I didn't even go back to look at it. I was just like, because I've hit my graph. I mean, dude, we all hit our graphs every once in a while on a cast or something. You hit your counter or your console, whatever. So I hit it. My drop shot went out there, and I was like, "Oh, cool," And it actually hit the fish. It ended up being a walleye, but I didn't notice it until like 30 or 40 minutes later when I was like, "I need to go get my seat so I can lean on something." I've almost fallen out of my boat 4 times already. I go sit down, look up, and I'm like, "You got to be fucking kidding me!" My screen
bullet hole.
There's just a bullet hole on it.
It did look like you just went right.
Yeah. No, dude, I pegged it. 1 quarter or a quarter ounce drop shot weight straight to it. But yeah, so got out there, and I mean, I don't know, dude, practice, like it's just not very eventful. I would say it's probably the hardest place to practice I've been to in my life. Just because
it's so featureless.
There's no features, and dude, it was the first time I knew I was in 100% of scope and derb.
Wow,
like 100%. Like, dude, you're not going to catch them doing anything else. Like, that's just what it is, and there's no features. So, I actually I will say I became a way better angler at this because of this tournament. But literally, all of practice was, dude, I launched my boat. I drove over to an area of the lake, just kind of went, yeah, this is as good as anywhere. Put my trolling motor down, put it on 9 or 10, leaned on my seat, and drove, and just looked at my forward facing.
Wow.
For hours. There was one day I covered 10.5 miles on my trolling motor.
Can you imagine fishing those derbies in that body of water back in the day before FFS,
well, dude,
where guys just did controlled drifts and they're just like drifting in the middle of the lake? Like,
well, and I think they probably set up a little bit better back then, obviously, on because once you start scoping around, you start noticing some features. But they're not on maps. Like there's sand spots in the weeds that change every year. They're things like that they relate to, but there's literally no way to find them well. So, and what's funny about that is what sucked for me. So after day 1, I go launch on day 2 for my first full day. And I'm like, all right, I know what I'm going to do. I'm running to Canada. I'm going to do this whole deal. And I run all the way to Canada, 45-minute run.
Wow.
Put my trolling motor in. My forward facing won't start. I didn't have it all day. Didn't work.
Oh no.
So I luckily before I left, me and Robbie Storar had gone out on Clearwater, and I have a high-speed 2D deucer in my boat from Humminbird. And him and I dialed it in really good here because I was like, I know this is the one way I can maybe find something random while I'm out there. So I never ran 70 anywhere. I just ran 25 or 30 so that I'd get a nice 2D image. And that day, once that happened, dude, I kind of floated around old school and just tried to do some stuff. And after 2 hours, I was like, I'm just wasting time. So I just picked up my trolling motor. I burned about a full tank of gas, just going 20 to 30 miles an hour. And all I did was I just looked for bait and anything different.
Yeah.
And I only ended up dropping like 4 waypoints that whole day and just being like, maybe, I don't know. I have no idea. One of them I fished and I threw a crankbait through, and I ended up not fishing it in the tournament, but because the water got blown out in Canada, which I'll get to. But I caught like a 3.5 and a 4 in 2 casts on a crankbait. And I was like, oh, cool. You know, I found something.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I went in. So the next day I went to the service yard, which thank God for the service people that do the opens and like the pro level tournaments, because shit breaks all the time. And if you don't have it fixed, you're like royally fucked. So I got there and we got it fixed. So I got out at like 10:30. Then I ran back to Canada. So I got over to Canada at like 11:30. And I had half a day of, I just went and checked the areas where I dropped waypoints. And what people need to realize too is like, dude, I dropped a waypoint there. That area is a quarter to a full mile area I then needed to scope.
Yeah.
To look around. Like, it's not like a spot back home. Like, everything's magnified by 20 times because the lake is so big. Ended up finding one really cool spot over there that was a hard spot that had just a metric shitload of bait in it. And there were a bunch of big ones in it in practice, but then went through the rest of practice, and I ended up finding where I weighed my big bag on day 1 from. When I was running back in, actually, basically to end my day, I was looking at my 2D, and there was this one spot I was just running, and it was really fuzzy. And then all of a sudden it got hard, and then it got fuzzy again. And there was no reason for it. I just dropped a waypoint on it and turned around, and it wasn't like a school of big ones. It was about a mile area, but I'd scope for 15 minutes or so, and I'd normally find one, and it was 4.5 to 5.5 pounds.
Wow. Just alone, just by themselves?
Just floating out in like 10 feet, or it was 17 feet, but they'd be like 7 feet off the bottom. So like I'd just be going around, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh shit, look at that. Chuck a drop shot at it. It bit.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, last day of practice, I was there. And I caught, I think I had like 23.25 in about an hour. And I was like, okay, this is really good. So I got out of there and went in. And I ended up having about a day and 3/4 of practice with forward facing. And I was going to go out the next morning to fish more in Anchor Bay because I still hadn't yet. But then, dude, that hurricane that came through Texas, like the residual got up to Michigan. And our last day of practice, it was blowing sustained 25 with gusts to like 40. You cannot go out on St. Clair when it's blowing that hard.
Yeah.
Like it's just, you can't do it. So didn't have that day of practice. So day 1, we went out, and I was just going to the one spot I found, which was on the American side. I got there, and there was still a small craft advisory when we went out, and it was big. But I got out there, and I was like, well, I'm going to drift, and if I can scope, I'll scope, but just going to drift around out here till the waves calm down. And I caught a 5, like a 5.25, 5.5 on like my 3rd cast. So day started off good, fished throughout the day, got up over, I knew I was over 20 pounds, and all of practice, everybody had talked about how hard it was to catch a true 4 because the fish were really post spawn. So you were catching a shitload of 3 3/4, just a shitload of them. But getting one that you put on your scale that was like 4.21 was really hard. So we all figured the check weight was going to be 18.5 to 19.5 a day. So when I got to over 20, I was like,
hell yeah,
I should be like top. I didn't think I'd be near the lead. I knew people were going to bust 22 to 24, maybe a 25-pound bag. So I went in. Dude, I weighed 20 pounds, 6 ounces. I was in 55th
That's crazy, dude.
And there was a 27-pound bag. I watched Trevor load them. Dude, you know what 27.5 pounds of smallmouth look like in a mesh bag?
No.
Full.
Like
literally full. Like he just went and walked up and I was like, whoa. Like, wow.
Did he think he was going to catch that? Or like,
I don't think anybody really thought that they were going to catch what they did. It just, so I think after the storm blew through, I don't know if that wind congregated the big ones more, but it ended up going down in Anchor Bay. And all the talk and practice was that if you stayed in Anchor Bay all day, you might get 5 bites and you'll weigh 22 pounds, but you might catch 2. Because it was, dude, you'd scope for like 2 hours and see 2 fish. And then they were super smart. So getting them to bite was, I never caught a fish I think I spent 4 or 5 hours in Anchor Bay in total in practice. I never caught a bass in there. So after day 1, saw all the bags, obviously hear from everybody that it's going down in Anchor Bay. And I guess kind of the old school tourney fisherman in me was just like, okay, I could go to Anchor Bay tomorrow, but I literally didn't catch any fish in there. So all I'll be doing is following people.
Yeah.
So I was like, that's not my bite. Like I'm going to get beat by it, but I'm going to go down doing my bite. Like that's not my bite. So yeah. I was like, if I go catch a decent bag somewhere else, my plan was to go in there to try to get a kicker.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm still going to do my plan, but I'm not going to just abandon everything and go float around in there. So the next day, apparently there was like 120 boats that started in Anchor Bay.
Really?
Yeah. And I ran to my Canada stuff, but that wind from 2 days earlier had completely blown it out. Like it was silty, muddy, weird, sandy colored water over there. It was really weird, actually. Nothing I'd ever seen before. And all the fish moved. So I ended up running back to my big fish area and they all moved too. A bunch of muskies moved in. There were a ton of muskies. There had to have been 10 to 15 muskies in that area then.
Really?
Yeah, there were no bass. They were all gone.
It is a killer musky lake, so.
Yeah, phenomenal musky lake. They're everywhere. You scope around for long enough, you'll find them, and they tend to be together.
Some of the YouTube videos are unreal, like 25 fish days, shit like that.
Wow.
Dude, when you find them, they're all by each other. Like I said, that spot was insane. You're just scoping around, and all you see is a 4 to 5 foot long fuzzy object swimming through, and you're like, well, it's a muskie.
Yeah.
But yeah, so day 2, I only ended up getting 14 and a half because, my fish left and was like, whatever. But it was a super cool experience, really cool fishery. But yeah, Sobi, what you were saying about how they found him back in the day. What's funny is when I was at the service yard, Jay Shakurat was in the service yard at the same time. So Jay and I were chatting.
Yeah.
And I knew he was going to whack him. I mean, he's freaking Jay. He's one of the best smallmouth fishermen in the world. And I looked at him. I'm like, dude, how the hell did they fish this place before scope? And he was like, he looked at me and said, I have no idea, and I don't care to learn. And I was like, yeah, I agree. Like
it would be
so hard.
Straight up, I feel like they just went to like a bay they like an Anchor Bay or like an area of the lake that they'd heard.
And they just drifted.
Throw drift socks out, and then they just like fished.
That's literally what they did.
Hours. Like that would be.
Yeah.
It'd be a weird place to like grow up.
Super weird. But now that you can scope, man, I mean, dude, me and Pangrack, we had a school that was all 3.5 to 3 3/4. And it was like a school. Like it was like a 500-yard area. And you panned around and you'd see 4 or 5 of them at the same time. And you just look for the biggest one and throw at it. I mean, you're talking 70 to 100 fish a day.
Really?
Easy. Oh, yeah. All 3.5 to 3 3/4, but nothing bigger.
Dang, that's
so
weird.
They're just super schooled by size. Yeah.
But overall, good experience. Like,
yeah, it was cool. I mean, I talked a little bit to like Chad Smith on the way home, just about how different, and it could have been that tournament because it was such a scope and derby too, but just how different the vibes of it all is now compared to before. where like, dude, you just know the scoping guys are just gonna blast them.
Yeah.
And it's just all these young dudes out there just hammering them. And it's props to them, man. They're so good at it. But you also know you have no chance.
Yeah.
Unless you're on it, like at their level. And I learned a lot there just in the sense of like, okay, well, got to do it. So that's what you do. And I just got back from this Mille Lacs Derby team trail. Took 9th in.
Nice.
Yeah, did really good. Weighed 23:36. Took 9th. Yeah.
You had 23P for 5?
Yeah.
Dang, dude, because I didn't look at the results or anything. Like I
had 23:36. I didn't. My biggest one was like a hair over 5. My smallest was like 4:52.
Did you scope them all?
Every single one of them. Yeah. So, dude, and that's what I was gonna say is that tournament finish. After we got our bag, I looked at Voigt and kind of laughed, and I was like, dude, there's no chance this happens without St. Clair. And he's like, what do you mean? And like what I learned out there that I then went to Mille Lacs was like, dude, I had a pretty bad practice. Well, not bad. I had a not very good practice on Mille Lacs. Like I had a couple areas that I caught a few bigger fish, but I purposely avoided the boulder game because I tried to do it for an hour or two, and dude, those fish will not bite.
Really?
Like they are so smart. They've just gotten targeted so much.
They just
that
know.
They're like, no. So I had some areas I found where I caught some bigger ones, and I just told Voigt, I was like, dude, we're just gonna go fishing. And he's like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm gonna go put my trolling motor down in the area and scope around till I find one that wants a bite. And that's what I did. I just went and put my trolling motor down, and like I was using contours and everything, like, oh, the wind's blowing this way, they should be over here, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I just pull into the areas of the lake that I had confidence in and fish for 20. There was only like 2 or 3 stops actually where we didn't catch one that helped, but you just put it down and look around. If you see bait, see the right things, you're like, okay, I'm gonna fish now. And yeah, like it's crazy how much fishing's changed though, dude. I bet half of my day on Mille Lacs I didn't cast.
That's so
you're just
weird,
like looking
dude.
for a fish to throw at.
A fish or like something that a fish would live on.
Yeah.
That I'm like, okay, I can't see, but I'll see. And just throw something by it.
Yeah.
That is
it was
weird,
sweet.
dude.
Yeah, it was sweet. I did feel it was kind of badass. So I caught them all in a minnow. So that was pretty cool.
Really?
Well, that's good because you weren't doing that really before too much.
Yeah, no. So that was sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I've gotten pretty good at that now.
Yeah.
Start like seeing different minnows and the way they act, different modifications you can make to make them act certain ways. And yeah, like I don't think it'll be a huge thing everywhere up here, but there's certain places and times but it's also a thing, dude, that if you're going to do it, you got to dedicate to it. Like if I would have went and did different stuff, I wouldn't have caught, like tried to mix it in.
Yeah, maybe here's a better question. How many fish did you throw out with your minnow that A, didn't care, or B, didn't commit?
A lot. I think that a lot of them were walleyes though.
Okay. But just say because you were just talking about full commitment. Like, did you throw at 50 fish and you got 10 to bite, or did you
probably about that, yeah.
Okay.
But like the thing is, when I threw it one and I knew it was gonna bite, I was like, oh shit, here we go. Like I was like, yep, it's happening right now. He's gonna bite.
Yeah, but the more you like watch guys that are like really good at scoping, especially in derbies, that's what they say is like if they throw out one and it doesn't bite, they just go find another one. They're like, there's there's so many fish in the lake. It's like, why try to force feed one that doesn't want to bite?
And that's what I feel like I've been learning a lot over the last 2 years. And now I feel like I'm starting to hit a groove with it, is that. And it's my fishing style now is way different than it was 2 or 3 years ago, but I feel like I'm starting to do better now. And it's that of I'm using my knowledge of fish locations, movements, and patterns to put myself in an area. And then I use my practice to figure out where the bigger fish are. And then I go to those areas and I go, well, I'm going to figure out this area today. Like I didn't fish any waypoints really from practice of that team trail. Like there was no spot I pulled up to, hit spot lock, and was like, I'm casting here.
That's so interesting.
I had
because
one
that
spot,
is like,
it was a boulder, and there were 6 giants on it. And I went to it 5 times, and one of them bit once. And it grabbed the back end of my minnow and basically pulled it off. And then they all went back to the boulder, and I came back there 3 different times to see if they would bite, and they never left that fucking boulder. They wouldn't pull off it, move, look at a bait, anything. They wouldn't do anything. I was like, wow. God damn, these things are smart.
Dang.
But yeah, it was a lot. It's a lot more of just, and honestly, I think it's pretty fun because you go out and you're just like, I have expectations I'm going to catch them. I just don't know how yet.
Yeah.
Then you have a bunch of rods on your front deck. You start getting kind of confidence in a few certain baits. And then I scoped one in shallow.
How shallow?
3 feet.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah. Yeah. My last 5-pounder.
Shallow.
Yeah. I was just going around looking because the sun was out and it was dead calm. So I was like, oh, it should be up here somewhere. So Voight was chucking a hair jig or a swim jig or whatever in the back. So he's covering water. And I'm like, well, I'm just going to keep covering water with the trolling motor. So I just kept looking. And yeah, I saw one. And I was like, oh, look at that one. Threw at it and bit and set the hook, reeled it in.
I just think that's so interesting what you said. Just like you don't need to force feed them. And I feel like, especially just like around our home area and like when we got old juicy spots and stuff like that, there's still fish that live there, and it's more pressured now than ever because a lot of the map gives away now. But like I almost feel like I've been fishing a lot of areas where I almost feel like I am force feeding them opposed to just getting around fish that it's like, you can't do anything wrong. You guys know when you get around fish and they're eating, it's like, or fresh fish or a new area or a new little section of the lake where it's like, your bait could be on half dickered and they do it. And then opposed to when you're like on an area that's maybe, I don't know, you just feel like you're doing everything right. And you're like force feeding them and you might get a light bite. I don't know.
Well,
it's interesting what you said.
It's cool too. Like, dude, the satisfaction level of like when you figure out the trigger of like how to get them to go is so cool. So like that's what happened there, where I was like, okay, like now I know where I need to get it, how to move it, like the whole deal. I had the coolest bite I've ever had on forward facing yesterday. It was we were up on this reef or whatever, it's like 9-10 feet, and I seen one and I'm like, oh, or it was like a pack of 3. I was like, oh, cool. That one should bite there. Like normally if they're in a pack, you're going to catch one of them. It's just, is it big or not?
Yeah.
And I see this pack chuck out to it and I'm working them and they're like sharking it, dude, like everywhere, coming after it, going. And I'm like, oh my God, why don't you just grab it already? And the bait's like almost back to, it's about 40 feet from the boat. And I'm just watching it, working it. And all of a sudden, from underneath my boat, I see just a shot come flying up, and the others go, and I'm like, what the? And it just gone. And I'm like, maybe? And I like reel back, and I'm like, oh my God, it's a smallmouth. Came up, it was a 4 3/4. And he came from underneath my boat. He had been chilling underneath the shadow of the boat, and he saw the others going for it, and he was like, no, mine. And he went out and grabbed it. It was sick. It was really cool.
That's crazy. That's just cool watching that fish behavior. Like that's wicked.
Yeah. And then I was like, oh, there's a bunch of fish in this area. So I fished around, caught like 4 or 5 more, but then you learn too, like, dude, fish are just getting so smart now. Like, there was still a bunch of fish in that area, but they all went neutral. So I had to leave. So I'm like, oh, I don't want to bite anymore.
And I guess like I feel like that maybe makes sense with even just like an old school way of fishing where you kind of like you can have a juice spot and you'll go like boom, boom, boom. Maybe you hit like 3 of them pretty fast. And then it's like, there's more fish there, but it's like, did they just shut down or go neutral or something happen? And then it's like, you could run over to another spot and you're like first or second cast, catch one. And you're like, okay, you're just in a fresh area where fish are just, I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe they
just learning so much about fish behavior.
That's so interesting.
Then you're able to like, I feel like use it to your advantage of just putting yourself in a situation to be more successful. And it also allows me to like, dude, I just went and checked like 3 areas yesterday. There were 2 areas I legitimately didn't even cast. I just went, pulled up, threw my trolling motor down, moved through to see what they looked like. And there was no bait, no fish around. And Voight was casting in the back and literally never casted. Just put my hook back on, put it down. And I was like, we're leaving. He's like, didn't see anything. I'm like, nah, it's not really going down here. Just pulled up and left.
That's just got to be like what guys just like how so many people are like approach it down south. You know what I mean? Because basically up north, we've got like, like Mille Lacs, Pinkalla, probably maybe like a Vermilion, and a handful of other lakes that it would probably really like play like that on. But like down south, like that's what they're doing. Like every damn lake, like every lake.
Yeah. You're looking for fish where it's going down. You just need to be in a spot where it's going down. And it's kind of the old school thing of like, I remember when I first had a really good spurt on Tonka, the biggest thing was bite window times. So like you would look at your waypoint times that you caught fish and be like, okay, these ones bite at 10:30, these ones bite at 8 and whatever. And you'd go line up your day based on that. Well, it's kind of the same theory now, except for, you do that. But then like, say, for example, on Mille Lacs, I had this shallow area that there was a ton of big ones there, but the whole morning it was cloudy and they were never there. So I had like just didn't even fish. Where I caught 2 of my I caught one of our 5s and a 4 3/4. I never even fished it in practice. It was probably 200 yards. I'd never even graphed it, never even looked at it. Nothing. It was about 200 yards from where I found a bunch of big ones in practice. And I went there on the tournament morning and there were none there. And just before we were going to another spot, I was like, hey, dude, told Void, I'm like, I'm going to crank the trolling motor up to 10 real quick. I'm just going to look through here to see if there's anything. And just went and combed through it real quick. I was like, oh, there's one. Threw at it, 5-pounder. And I was like, oh, there's another one. Threw at it, 4 3/4.
Did Voight smack any out the back, just fan casting?
Not in the morning. Like when we were out deeper, so like, I don't know, 8 to 13 feet. So mid-range. When we were out there, he maybe caught a couple on a rig in the back, but nothing really. But then later in the day, the sun came out and we went shallower and they're just cruising everywhere. He actually probably caught more than me then. Because I was just looking for one I could get a bait in front of, but they were moving so fast and he was catching them pretty steady out the back. I was like, whatever, I'll just keep looking for a bit. Because at that point, we need like a 5.5 to upgrade, and a 5.5 on forward facing is pretty obvious when you see it. So I was just trying to see one. But yeah, it was really fun. It was a cool tournament. I just can't believe the weights.
Yeah, who won it?
Chase and Dustin won it with 25, hair over 25.
Wow. And realistically, this is supposed to be a tough time of year for Mille Lacs. Like this is supposed to be.
Yeah, they're still biting really good though. I think there's no algae, like no hard algae bloom yet. Okay. The lakes kind of filled back up pretty good, so they were biting still pretty good. But
how did Connor Graham do?
Connor took 4th.
What?
Yeah, he had 24 something.
He was pumped for it last Tuesday when we were fishing that other one.
He had a couple really big ones. He had like, I think 2 5.5s.
Dude, I think he was fishing dirt shallow. Like shallow.
Well, dude, he was
catching on a popper and when he was practicing.
Dude, it was dead calm all week. So you knew the shallow bite was going to be good because they hadn't gotten blown out of it yet.
Dang.
And yeah, the shallow bite was awesome in the afternoons.
Good
It's just in the morning it was not. Even if it was dead calm overnight, it's like their natural brain was like, leave.
Yeah.
And then
he
it would
wasn't
be
scoping. He doesn't even have it.
He doesn't
yeah.
have it.
No, he doesn't have it. He wasn't scoping at all. He was just going around.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him, dude. Dang. Good
Yeah,
for
so
him.
it just, I mean, it shows it's a tool. Like, if it's a tool you want to use, you can use it to your advantage. If you don't want to, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I give props to the guys who caught him doing the boulder fishing, man, because I tried to do that for a bit, and I was like, no. It is infuriating having it and looking at a boulder and seeing them on the boulder and seeing them do nothing. And cycling through like 10 baits. Being
Leave
like,
it, dude.
Eat it. All right. Well, we'll start to wrap our evening down.
I was gonna say the only other thing that happened
Yeah.
that was briefly covered is I did get engaged. So
Yes. You can't. No. You can't end that at the end of the pod. Say that.
All right. Well, thanks.
We got engaged. All right. Another episode of Pass the Barb. See you guys.
No. You can't tell Alyssa you threw that in the pod at exactly 2:59, 3 hours in. I talked about it on the pod.
She won't care.
I got a timestamp.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well,
DeMarkey was there for photos and everything. We got her lined up. Did that.
I'm not talking about this at the end of the pod. No, you are saving this for the beginning of next pod because I want to hear how it went down, and I want people to actually hear how it went down. You're not talking about this right now.
You just ask a question, and then they say yes, and you move on.
Okay. Well, let's wind it down. Or should we? Or should we cut it?
Yeah.
Should we cut it? Are we done? Or do we?
Did we do it?
Did we do it? Or do we have more? Should we end it? I feel like we need to end it on a fun note. Not that getting engaged is not fun. That is very fun. But
for you, it's fun for you. I honestly was unaffected.
We're gonna end it on a fun note tonight. We usually do a section called Geared Up. And we're not going to do a full geared up, but I have some fun trinkets that I've acquired now just from kind of traveling around, seeing other fishing buddies have. And this is just kind of a fun little miniature geared up that we'll end the pod with. And if you guys have anything, definitely throw it in. First and foremost, if you guys leave to go fishing in the morning, you hop in your truck, you start things up. It's usually early in the morning. It's dewy. It's foggy. And you know how your mirror's got like all that water and fog on it? You know? Good buddy Joel showed me this. This is a miniature squeegee, and it comes in a 2-pack on Amazon for $6.99. So I'm sitting here in the truck. I can squeegee one side, and then I reach over, and I get the other mirror.
Oh, wow.
I get this mirror.
Why don't you have heated mirrors, Joe?
You got heated mirrors?
Yeah.
What? I got an old
all I do is push the button. Boom. No fog.
No fog?
Yeah.
All right. Well, opposed to getting heated mirrors, this is $6.99 on Amazon. We'll be linking it down below. All right. And,
I like it.
And last but definitely not least, this is wicked sweet. Buddy Joel had this, and I instantly ordered it. This is called a Zap It. And
I saw this Instagram
I've
story.
seen those.
Buy one. They're awesome. You just turn it on, and then you go like this, and you wave it. It literally just electrocutes.
Can you shock yourself with it?
Maybe.
Like if you lick that thing?
Have you tried it yet?
We're gonna we're gonna go mobile. There's a bunch of bugs right.
Hit it on your hand.
I want you to lick that thing.
We're gonna go mobile.
Just the tip of your tongue. Just a little.
Uh-oh. There's a bunch of bugs.
Oh, fuck.
That actually sounds like it would hurt.
It sounds like it has recoil, dude.
We'll go mobile out here. Let's
can you smell them getting cooked on that thing?
Oh my God. Sounds like a firecracker. Holy shit.
I'm just nuking them. Oh, we're nuking them.
He's a killer.
Oh, decimating them. I'm decimating the population. Get wrecked. Get absolutely wrecked.
Okay, that is a good way to end the
I like
pod.
that
That
one.
was good.
No,
Sobi.
that's
It's
good,
awesome. It is way too much fun. Oh my gosh, now they got in the garage.
People are so pissed off in their vehicles right now. All they hear is
Just snapping.
You get the point. It's the
that
zap.
literally sounds
right.
like those little
I'm buying
firecracker
that. I'll
things
buy
that you
that.
like throw at the ground or whatever.
Dude, I feel like that could be. You got to like get everyone at
Oh,
like
there's
a
one
party.
pot in there.
Those.
Oh, you're just getting nuked. So that's the maybe a little bit cooler than the
I
squeegee.
like that, dude.
But
Oh my
yeah,
god, dude.
everyone
I need
needs
one
this.
of them.
If
Dude,
you
I
live
feel
in
like
the Midwest, you need
Everybody should have one. You like sit in a circle, and every time you get snapped, you got to drink.
it.
You just have to hold it by the campfire, you know.
Drink. If anybody lives in the Midwest and they got skeeters, like that is a must. And I feel like it'd be the best.
What do they call that thing?
It's called a zap it. And I'd love to know more details about how many watts or whatever, but you can just, you recharge it, you turn it on. And then once you hold this button, you've engaged the electricity there. And when you go like that, it goes through this first row of metal, and the inside metal is actually what's, getting the charge. And then they just, it literally fries them to a crisp. There's nothing left of them after you hit them. It just truly to dust. When Joel
Unreal.
pulled this out, I was like, I'm buying that right now.
Unreal.
You sold me.
Sold.
I've been influenced.
All right. But yeah, that was a miniature geared up. Thank you guys so much for listening to the pod. Thank you, Ryan and Bart, for being on here. And thank you to Matt Stefan as well. That was a good pod. A lot of good discussion. Anything else from you guys?
No.
Nah.
If anybody made it this far, please rate and subscribe to our social media pages. We would greatly appreciate that. Anything else, Barty boy?
Nah.
All right.
It's nice to be back.
Yeah, good to have you back. It'd be a lot more.
Congrats on the engagement. Congrats.
We would love to hear about it at a later time.
It's gonna start the next pod.
Yeah.
I want to hear the full story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree.
If we're here, I think we'll both be at a Champions tour, but that'll make the next one fun.
Well, maybe I'll just speculate on how it went down.
Yeah,
We'll see.
She's like, maybe.
that'll be the next
Or
pod.
maybe
Ryan,
she'll be the
Ryan will
guest.
lead it.
I'll have Alyssa
Ryan will
on.
lead it off
I'll
with
have
a new
Alyssa
segment.
on here.
Have Alyssa
what
on
I'm
here for
gonna
the single shot. We all get to ask her one question. That'd be electric.
Oh my god. All right. Thanks for listening. This has been another episode of Pass the Barb. We'll see you on the next one.
Peace.